Hello, my name is Alan, and today I'm facilitating a one-shot of my own recently kickstarted game Against the Dark Conspiracy. In this session, we're using the Vampire Conspiracy, and I'm using a Night's Black Agents scenario to scaffold the session. That's the Harker intrusion by Graham Ryder Hanrahan. The game is inspired in terms of setting by Night's Black Agents by Ken Hite, and the system has its roots in Cthulhu Dark by Graham Walmsley. This game was organized as part of the Gauntlet Community Open Gaming Weekend. If you don't know about the Gauntlet, please search Gauntlet-RPG and come find out about us. Come join us for a game. We'd love to have more people. These weekends are specifically aimed at encouraging people to play more online, given the circumstances we're in, and we run them every third of a year, approximately every 4 or so months. So, if you're seeing this and you're interested, please search Gauntlet, and that will keep you informed of when the next one might be. The premise of this game is that the characters, and if you know Night's Black Agents, you will be familiar with this as a setup. The characters are all competent individuals who previously made a successful living in the overlapping areas of spying and criminality. They may well have spent a number of years doing dangerous or disreputable things for money or country. But something happened that led them to put that behind them. Maybe they were blown, maybe they were burned, maybe they just walked away. Maybe we'll find out. Because something triggered a belief in all of these characters that there is a shadowy vampire conspiracy behind most of what is bad in the world today. And they have come together to try and take that conspiracy apart, not least because if they don't, there is a decent chance that it will come after them. That's the broad concept. Important to recognize that these characters are not necessarily nice people. They have been damaged by their previous career in the shadows, and they have very little left other than the rest of the team who they trust. They may not like them all, but at least they trust them. And they have very little left in terms of a connection to the real, to the ordinary world. But there is one person, and we'll come to that shortly. So that's the setup. The aim today is, as I say, I'm using the Harker intrusion to scaffold this session. I am going to start in media res in Marrakesh, which you can see behind me. And we'll then flash back or play forward, depending on how the players want to take this, to work out how they're going to meet their objectives in this initial operation. And that will lead to some clues, conceivably, which will take them on to somewhere else. This is a game in which you have venal human pawns of a dark, dangerous, and bloodthirsty vampire conspiracy. So we could end up in some dark places. And therefore, we are going to make sure we play with some safety tools. And if I could just ask the players to look at the cats tab, you'll see the safety tools we're playing. They're a fairly standard set for the Gauntlet. We like to think we have a really strong table culture. And you'll find on that tab, you'll find the open door. The open door that is there, folks, because no one should sit and play a game they're not enjoying. So if for any reason this turns out not to be the game that you thought it was going to be, and you're not having a good time, no one wants you to stay and suffer through it. Okay, so if if genuinely this is not the game you hoped it'd be, I mean, I hope it is, but if it's not, the open door is there for any of us to use. It's also there because stuff happens in the real world, and the real world is more important than the gaming world. So if something happens, the doorbell goes, whatever, step away. The door is also there in case something intense does happen in play and you just need a breather. And it's a way of having a breather without, calling a halt to the game. All you have to do is, if you can put in the chat saying, just going to take 5 minutes away. We will have some breaks every hour or so we've got about 4 hours to play. So we'll have 3 breaks scattered about with any luck in a following wind. But if you need a breather for any reason, please just, turn your camera off, turn the mic off, go and have a walk. We hope you'll come back, but if you don't, that's fine, right? The open door is there for that. It's good if you are going to go away to answer the doorbell or whatever, just put something in the chat, in the Zoom chat, that helps us realize you will be back shortly. Otherwise, we'll just play on, yeah, and reintegrate you if you come back to us. We're also playing with lines and veils. Lines are things which won't appear in the narrative. Veils are things that might appear in the narrative, but we will draw a discrete curtain across them. And at this point, I'd like to draw the player's attention to the lines and veils tab. I've already put some lines in, and you are welcome to add others. But I want to start with, there's a column in that on that tab that says interested in, and that's my aid memoir for reminding you that we are likely to see horror and gore in this game. It is frankly almost impossible to line that out. But if you want to veil that, now will be the time to tell me. And betrayal and violent conflict and romance between PCs and NPCs, that's there to remind you that the way you reduce stress in this game, in Seek Relief from the Horror, covers quite a lot of that. So Seek Relief from the Horror, one of the ways is to behave badly, which is to verbally or physically abuse someone or chat them up hoping for meaningless sex. That could be another player character, though I would expect you always to ask them if they want to be involved in that scene, rather than assuming they will want to be involved in that scene. Another one is indulge in a vice. So yeah, getting drunk or getting high, that is another way to diffuse the stress that you will accumulate. There is a less painful one, but it requires a little bit more fictional positioning, which is to seek advice from a mentor, confidant, or someone else you trust. That, as I say, that requires a bit more fictional positioning. You are not going to find, a priest on a street corner to have that heart-to-heart with, but it's there. And the other ones kind of risk putting either one of the player characters in a difficult position or putting your anchor in a difficult position. So that's why those are in the lines and veils tab. It's my aid memoir to remind you that stuff is there. And my working assumption is that you will not involve another player character in that without first asking them, okay? There is an ask first column. So my assumption is I'm going to move all of those interested in into the ask first. So drug and alcohol abuse, that's kind of a choice for you, but I will, if you're going to want that to be in a scene with another player character, I'll ask you to ask them first. So those are lines and veils. They are there in the hope that we don't need to use the other safety tool, which is the X card. The X card is there for if something does make you uncomfortable that you didn't think was going to make you uncomfortable or you weren't expecting. The simplest way to use the X card with me is to make the X or put it in the chat. I tend to be looking at your faces when I play rather than the chat. So if somebody does put it in the chat and one of you notices it, please draw my attention to it, okay? I won't ask you why you've played the X card. I might ask you how far back in the fiction you want me to rewind, and what you want me to avoid when I play forward from there. Hopefully, if I ask you how far back, it'll be clear what you'd like me to avoid, and then I'll play forward. If something comes up in play and you think, oh, I'm okay with that, but then it comes up again or, whatever, and you think, actually, no, I'm not. Just because you didn't play the X card the first time, that shouldn't stop you playing it on subsequent occasions. Yeah, the X card is there. I want no one around this virtual table to be involved in stuff that they're uncomfortable with, okay? Lines and veils, hopefully we'll take most of those out, but, the X card is there where we miss something. And the other thing we're playing with is the Gauntlet Code of Conduct. And as you'll see there, I've summarized it in very simply. It's a multi-page document that I recommend to anybody I play with. But it's basically a guidelines for playing respectfully. And, don't interrupt other players. Don't insert yourself into a scene they've set up unless they invite you in. Help to keep the spotlight moving by not hogging it. and support me as the facilitator if I need to kind of clarify, it seems to me we're getting a bit repetitive. Is this scene going anywhere, or is it time to bring it to a close? So those are the safety rules we're playing with. I will finish by saying my pronouns are he, him. I just realized I haven't got those in my Zoom chat, so I will rename myself as Alan, he, him. It would be helpful to me if you would put your character name into your Zoom chat if you haven't already, because then I can start talking to the characters rather than you. But with all of that done, let me start, Stephen, because you've done this more than once in games of mine, and I've done it in games with you. So let me start with you and say, Stephen, say hello, tell us about your pronouns, and introduce us to Hanna Brewer. Or if I'm not pronouncing that right, help me.
No, that's right. Hi, my name is Stephen. My pronouns are he, him. And today I'm playing Hanna Brewer, pronouns she, her. Hanna is a mechanic, probably for the Austrian service before she left at the accidental death of her family. She has a living brother, but her parents and her younger sister were all killed in an accident. And she dug around and found that there was more to that than expected. In the Austrian service, she was doing mechanical kind of work. This included planting explosives. This included sabotaging vehicles, that kind of thing.
Fine. Technical also gives you access to drones if you want them. The expertise of using simple, I'm thinking of simple drones, not those ones that drop bombs on buildings.
You mean it's not Shadowrun?
Only if you call on the right contact does it become, weapon of mass destruction. So yeah, let me just explore this. So your remaining anchor in the real world is Gabriel, your brother. He's the only one who's still alive. I won't ask you any more about him because you can reveal some more about Gabriel in play. Yes, so you lost the rest of the family. I was going to ask, but I think you've made it clear. You think you don't know for certain that your younger sister Eliza or Elisa is alive or dead. Is that fair? She's the unknown.
I think that they're dead. But GM Fiat, she was really here. They're keeping her prisoner. Something like that. Yeah.
You have not seen Elisa's body, or not right. A body you can confirm is Elisa's.
In fact, I expect what happened was this was a car accident, and they went over a cliff, and that's what my inspection was like the vehicle. It doesn't make sense that vehicle was in good condition, right? Why would it, lose steering and go over a cliff? Yeah.
I get that. Let's move along. Steve, say hello, tell us about your pronouns, and introduce us to Jan Svoboda.
Hey, I am Steve, he, him, and I am playing Jan Svoboda. It's your fault for putting a link to the Story Games name project. He's Czech and is a former bagman burglar for the Lisky Bratva. And his specialty is larceny, intrusion, disguise as well. He's a very plain looking older man, the type who, if you didn't know what he looked like and weren't looking for him, your eyes are just going to pass right over him. He tends to try and cultivate that as well because it benefits his skill set. His anchor is Ludwika Visaka, which I'm definitely mispronouncing. On again, off again, love. She worked for Interpol, still has contacts there, but he doesn't want to take advantage of that typically. She kind of knows a little bit about what he does, but or she knows a lot about what he used to do, but doesn't really know about what he's currently doing, just that something's gone wrong. And he is, I don't have the details worked out, but he is
confronting the conspiracy.
Yeah, sure.
Don't work out any more details about her. because you can reveal more about the
Okay.
relationship with her in play as a way to relieve your stress.
Gotcha.
And the same for choose to confront. You know, we can fill in some of the details of that in play.
All right, will
but
do.
do tell me why you decided to confront the conspiracy.
He was not a good man, and then something went above and beyond even his morality, and he kind of viewed this as a threat to humanity, and it kind of helped him rediscover a bit of his own humanity. And he's willing to kind of put his own put his own health and his own life at risk to fight them.
I will be very curious whether he's prepared to put Ludovica on the line as well, but time will tell. So thank you for that. Let's move along. Kay, say hello, tell us about your pronouns, and introduce us to Calder Knight.
Hi, yes, I'm Kay. I use she, her pronouns, and tonight I'll be playing Calder Knight, our Special Forces assassin. He's a good old American apple pie boy. Joined the the armed forces when he was 18, and sort of built his way up from there. He's relationship. He has an older half brother who, interestingly enough, is a mechanic. Who he cares quite deeply for. And let's see. He chose to confront this conspiracy because he was betrayed.
I'm about to ask a question about that because as a former cog, perhaps unknowing cog, what would entice you back into the fold? Because you know enough to know that you were a cog in the machine. What could they offer to get you back?
So what I think is if he was quote unquote shown the conspiracy was for the best for those he cares about, or perhaps by a former individual he cared for or knew, perhaps someone he'd been involved with or worked with before in special forces.
Would that include someone he thought he'd killed?
It is possible, yeah. Someone he thought he killed, someone he thought was human, and perhaps maybe it's not. Yeah, I think if they were to show him or give him reason to doubt and play that in the right way, of perhaps coerce or corrupt or some way, I think he has one person he cares for, and beyond life, beyond country, and everything else. And if they can show that this might be better for them, they might have a foothold.
That's good to know. Always nice to know what to tempt you with. May not get to there in a one shot, but always good to know. Let's move along. Cameron, say hello, tell us about your pronouns, and introduce us to Ellie Barron.
Yeah, my name is Cameron, he, him. I'm also, I'm going to do is Eli Barron, he, him. So Eli was a signals intelligence analyst for the NSA. I think in the time that he spent, monitoring, all sorts of signals and data, he started to kind of pick up and notice trends, and being already kind of like a somewhat paranoid person, kind of dug deep and went a little head first, and basically kind of burnt what he needed to as he started getting more and more wrapped up. His anchor is
I just say that sounds a bit like when he was with the NSA. There's that, you could imagine a supervisor saying, is Eli turning into some kind of conspiracy theorist?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Tell me about your anchor.
Yeah. So his friend is a very close friend, Anne Blackwell. She's basically somebody who's always willing to kind of sit down and listen to Eli as he had a drink and went on his rants, and even though she would kind of laugh at it or let him roll with it and indulge him, she's not really, he views her as somebody who's what he described as untouched. She hasn't really been pulled in, so he's somebody who she's always somebody he can go to. And then I believe that she still thinks he works for the NSA, doesn't realize that he's kind of gone off the deep end a little bit. And he's trying to
where have you been for the last 6 months?
Exactly. He comes and goes and kind of shows up, and and she's kind of like, well, it seems weird, but maybe his job's getting more intense.
And in terms of why you chose to confront the conspiracy, I think I'm seeing a connection between this and your background as an analyst and researcher for the NSA, but go ahead. Tell me why you
Yeah,
decided.
exactly. So big thirst for knowledge. So fascinated by the allure of blasphemous unknown. So, I think exactly along those lines. It just really kind of started to spiral in his head, and gears started turning, and he kind of realized, at least in his view, and this kind of connects to what he would give up, is that he views it's like it's way bigger than anything else going on out there, and me sitting here in this office at home, doing this monitoring isn't going to do anything, and I need to get out there and get involved in it.
So it's
figure out what's
some
going on.
kind of deep dark rabbit hole that
Yeah,
Eli
exactly.
has chosen to go down, and it says there you give up everything. So life,
Yeah, if needed, I think. Yeah, I
soul,
think he'd have to play it by ear, but he's pretty much willing to like dive in and give up his citizenship connections, everything, because he sees it as something that's like it's huge, it's big. At least as of right now, he says a bad thing that he's doing his job to get involved and like
okay,
try to figure it out and stop it.
that works fine. I shall be interested to see whether he's prepared to give up Anne's soul. If and when the time comes. So I think we've got a good picture of our operators. I will just now draw your attention to the Operation 1 tab, which I just want to get us thinking about. Because then I'm going to call a break, but I want you to at least be thinking about the setup. So as it says on the tab, someone called Madam Mina has sent you, and I think it's probably you, Eli, because you are the person who is, the multiple rabbit holes that constitute the dark web and its various messaging services. You are that person. So I think Madam Mina has got an encrypted packet of information to the team via you concerning a journalist. Sorry, I've just changed their gender. So it's Oliver Liu. Oliver is a Chinese-born, British-educated journalist. Madam Mina included enough in the packet to suggest she probably knows more about the conspiracy than you do, and that if you are successful in following up her lead, she might be prepared to share more. A journalist, Oliver Liu, has gone on the run from Romania, where he's been working for several months. Madam Mina implies he's on the run from the conspiracy. As a kind of outline starting operational objective, I've set, which you can change once we've got into play. Find out why Oliver Liu is on the run for the conspiracy. What does he know? Who or what is the focus of the operation? Well, Oliver. Where? You've already tracked him to Marrakesh. You've tracked him to a cheap hotel called the Riyadh Rouge in the kind of network, see behind, of narrow streets surrounding the great central square in Marrakesh. In terms of any opposition you might face, so far, undefined. But you are pretty confident, having done a quick recce of the site, because you're on the ground in Marrakesh. We'll flash back to fill in any of your gaps before you get there. You are pretty confident that the Riyadh Rouge is being watched. Oh, sorry, I should explain. The drop-down boxes here are for use in the game as written, which is make up your operation as you play. Because I'm using a scaffold in one shot, I've discovered in a one shot you need a bit of structure. Those drop-downs, ignore them. And I've given you a very brief kind of pen picture of the Jamar al-Fnar, this great square, and the surrounded tourist area. So that's the setup. I think the Riyadh Rouge entrance is just behind me. I'm going to suggest that we take a break now until 5 past the hour. And when we come back, we'll start with you on the ground in Marrakesh, and then you can flash back to tell me how you did some background work, or did you do the background work here? Okay. I'll see you at 5 past the hour. I'll pause the recording. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Quick thing, real quick. I saw one of those drop downs, and I'm pretty sure it broke something, because the opposition field. I was like, oh hey, what else could this be? And I just clicked. Thank you. There we
Yeah,
go. All is
because
well.
I'm lazy, I didn't disconnect the drop-down lists in advance, so my apologies for that. No, that's fine. So opposition to be revealed or for you to discover. So I'll see you at 5 past the hour. If that is that long enough?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, okay. I'll
Probably.
see you at 5 past the hour. I'll pause the recording now. Okay, we're back from our first break, and the team are on the ground in Marrakesh, in the tourist district, dense, narrow streets, the smell of street food, motorcycles and small vans, avoiding people selling in the streets. Chaotic, colourful, exciting. And the hotel that you have tracked Oliver Liu to is the Riad Rouge behind me here. Let's think about this. So each of you can set a scene in advance of actually starting the operation. Yeah, you can either set an investigative scene or you can set a preparatory scene. The investigative scene will allow you to ask me questions about what's going on. Yeah. And I'm very happy for that scene to be set in London before you flew to Marrakesh or wherever else. A preparatory scene is a bit like that bit of Blades in the Dark, where it helps us work out what the fictional positioning for your character is at the start. So the simple decision you need to make to start with is, do you want to know more about the setup that I've given you so far? Or are you content with that and you simply want to set your own, where will I be at the start in terms of preparation? Will I be disguised as, one of those street sellers or whatever else? So let me, I'll keep going left to right until I have the courage to begin to break up the sequence. Let me start with Hanna. Hanna, do you want an investigative scene where you can ask me some questions about our starting positions, or do you want to reserve that scene for a preparation scene?
I think I'll do a preparation scene.
Okay, let's move along to Jan. Jan Svoboda, would you like more information about the situation on the ground in Marrakesh, or about Oliver, or anything else? Or would you like to reserve and then have a preparation scene that would give you kind of starting fictional positioning?
I kind of would like some more information. I feel like I'm positioned to, perhaps break into the Riad Rouge or something along those lines.
Okay, so this because what I'm looking for really in this is some relatively low stakes introduction to the mechanics. So if you look at the basic moves tab, you'll see that top left there is investigate. So when you want to ask a question about someone, something, or somewhere, or want me, control, to reveal something about the situation, you roll the central d6. If your expertise is relevant to the action that you describe, the scene you set, you add your expertise dice and so on. So first of all then, Jan, what scene do you want to set that would allow you to ask me some questions relevant to the answers you want?
So let's see. I think that I would. I think that actually I'm looking to break into the Riad Rouge and probably create a distraction of some sort so that I can kind of slip behind the counter and maybe flip through logbook or the electronic equivalent thereof.
So it sounds like your investigative scene is wanting to find out what the internal layout is, or something about the way it works.
Yeah, or maybe the room he's in, something like that.
Yeah. So I think then, so you're rolling that center gray dice. I think that your larceny and burglary expertise is ideal for casing a joint and working out approaches and the rest. So I think the orange dice is in play.
Right.
Would you like to add the stress dice to increase your chance of success?
You mentioned this comes from Cthulhu Dark. Does that mean it increases my stress if it rolls highest?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Actually worse, equal to or higher than.
Okay. Graham always seemed to leave the wording vague enough that that's usually how I play it anyway. So Sure, it's a one shot. Let's do it. I'll throw in my stress die as well. So I'm rolling center, top left.
Center, top, and left. Yeah. Gray,
So I have those
orange, and
selected.
green.
Okay.
Oh,
I think
right.
I've got it.
Okay. So yeah, click on them and they should highlight, and then that should light up a little re-roll button at the bottom.
Yeah, I believe I got it.
Yeah. Okay. So the
Did it just re-roll the same thing? Oh no, it had something different in the middle.
No,
Okay.
you're okay. So the good news is that your top dice is a 4, which is a straightforward success. The stress dice is 1, so stress doesn't change. So everything's good. So with a 4 or 5, you get the minimum needed to proceed, and control will also answer one question. So what can let me tell you then that this is a cheap hotel, okay? This is a cheap Marrakesh hotel where cockroaches scatter when people draw the curtains. So, no high level security, or you'd be amazed if there was high level security. There is, the manager, inverted commas, is a young local who runs the front desk, and entry is by a key. You hand him the key when you leave, he gives you the key when you come back. There is only one key for every room, though he probably has a master somewhere under the desk. So I think that's the basic information you need to proceed. Now you can ask me one question. Oh, you are muted.
That would help. I think I'm going to ask, where is Oliver?
Okay, I think that having observed for a few, let's say you've observed for a day or two, just to get the lay of the land, and you've seen Oliver, he doesn't come out often. He comes out to get food that he takes back to his room, and he rarely strays out of sight of what you can see behind me. Yeah. And by spotting his arrivals and departures, and spotting when curtains are drawn or opened, you've narrowed it down to a room behind these 2 windows at the front of the hotel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. The 2 windows that are on the same side of the building?
Yeah, well, it looks like his room is the window on the front of the building and the first window on the side. You're not sure about that one. Does that seem like a fair answer to the question?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me move along. To Calder. Calder, do you want to do some investigation to sort out what's going on the ground or anything else? Or do you want to reserve for some preparation?
I'm going to reserve for some preparation, I believe.
A man of action such as yourself, not unreasonable. Eli, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'll do some prior investigation.
Okay, so what kind of things do you want to know? And then we can frame the scene between us.
Yeah, so I was actually thinking just more about Oliver, like dig up background records, information, history, anything that would give us an idea of kind of, what happened, why did Oliver, we know presumably Oliver's running away from the conspiracy, but a little more about kind of, where they came from before.
Where he's running from would be good information, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, roll to investigate. You roll the center gray dice. Your research expertise gives you the orange dice. You can include the green stress dice in order to increase your chance of success.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so highlight all 3, click reroll, and let's see what happens. Look at that. So a 4, it's not on the stress dice, so stress doesn't go up. And 4 gives you the basic information and another, let me see. Okay, so the basic information I think I can tell you is you find by using your research to just, chase down Oliver Liu, you can find that he was hiring cars in Romania until about 3 weeks ago. You can see that those hire cars take him to a number of locations in Transylvania and into the Carpathian Mountains. Yeah. And then about 3 weeks ago, those hire cars stopped being hired. but you do find one where a car was damaged and abandoned. Okay, so that's the basic.
Was that within when he was still hiring the cars, or was that after?
That was the last car he hired. The last car he hired was abandoned at the roadside.
Okay.
And damaged, says the insurance report. So with that in mind, is there a question you want to ask me? Because you've got a 4.
Good question.
I mean, I'll tell you now, you have a decent outline itinerary for his time in Romania.
Yeah. Okay. And do I know already, like, kind of when he left from Romania to
the last hire car? Okay. Is about 3 weeks ago.
Okay, so presumably within that time. Okay. I guess the question would be: are there any digital traces of Oliver since he's been in Marrakesh that I've been able to find?
Yes, I think that you track his credit card to usage at the airport about 4 days ago. He flew in on a flight from Cairo. So you've got a period of time where he's moving around Transylvania in Romania. Then you've got a gap before a flight from Cairo to Marrakesh.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Does that seem fair?
Yeah, makes sense. That's good to know.
It looks like he took some money out, cash, local currency out at the airport, and it looks like he's been trying to keep his spend to cash since then.
Okay.
Which, if you're on the run, would be looks like he's taking what he thinks are sensible precautions. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So that's everything you know right now, Hanna. What kind of preparatory scene do you want to set that might give you some advantageous fictional positioning when we start the operation?
So I think I'm set up out on the street. There is a broken down van. Smoke is coming from the engine compartment. My feet are sticking out from underneath. I think we hear cursing from the in the local language, right? And this is like a recording that I've got going, and I think that this van is either a place for us to stash equipment if we need to get, something bigger to get in and out, or this is our exit plan.
Okay, so it seems to me that this is about obtaining the van and setting it up. Yeah, okay. I don't think it's going to be difficult for you to obtain a van using whatever straightforward cover you're using. You're probably all in country on tourist visas because Morocco is desperate for foreign tourists and foreign currency. So it won't be difficult for you to obtain the van. The tricky bit is the kitting out and the making it look like it's not working and all that stuff. So I think that absolutely plays into your technical expertise. So you are going to be using the gray dice, the orange dice, and the stress dice if you want to increase your chance of success.
Of course. So let me roll those.
Ooh, a 6. And it's not on the stress dice either. So on a 6, if we use the basic move, do something else. Yeah. When you do something that isn't covered by another move, on a 6, you succeed brilliantly. Control will agree with you what extra benefit you get. So everything you described, tick. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you're located, people are cursing. The guy on that motorbike there is cursing loudly as he has to go round you. Street traders are kicking the tires, say, in Arabic, move the fucking thing. But you're underneath, there is, cursing in Arabic. All of that is happening. But what else do you want for that 6?
So I think while I'm underneath and hidden, I have a little mobile where I'm watching the view from a drone that is above. It's high enough above we can't hear it, but I can get the lay of the land so I can see if other people are coming in and out.
Okay, Okay. So you have drone observation up. Yeah. No roll. You've got an overview of this immediate location. So again, about as far as we can see, and the same, but ahead of me, whichever way I'm looking, you've got a reasonable view. Now, what it says though on a 6, you also mark intel. So mark intel. And if you look on the other rules tab, folks, you can see ways to spend intel. But my suggestion would be hang on for a moment. So you gain intel as you discover something about the conspiracy. We don't know what it is. We won't know till you spend it. Scary, isn't it? Because what you notice, Hannah, as well as getting that intel, is that with those drone observations over the 30 minutes that you've been out there, you are seeing that the hotel is being watched. There are at least 4 watchers. 2 of them are on site at any one time. They do a reasonable kind of 10, 15-minute rotate. But because you are able to see them from above, you can begin to get some sense that the hotel is being watched by another team. Yeah. And what worries you and is going to lead you to roll for stress is that some of them appear to be speaking into their sleeves. A conceit of the game is all 4 of you have uncrackable comms, right? So little earbuds. You can hear what's going on around one another. You can hear what you're doing. It looks like they are similarly equipped, though probably not as high tech as yours, because they don't have you, Hannah. And that requires a roll for stress. Now, when the rule says roll for stress, you roll just the green stress dice. If it is higher than your current stress, and this is just like Cthulhu Dark, Steve, if it rolls higher than current stress, stress goes up by 1. So let's have you roll that green dice.
So I'm clicking the roll button now.
Your current stress is 2. It doesn't go up. So you pass that information on. And let's come to Calder. Calder, you reserve for a preparation move. That's the setup you've got. Hanna has just filled in a gap. How do we see your preparatory scene unfolding?
So I think you see him in an outfit that mirrors the colors of the local buildings perfectly. And as he sort of is swiftly moving, he was originally circling those 4 individuals who were movements. But as Hanna mentions this specialty squad, he sort of maneuvers himself between buildings to get behind the individual that appears to be the leader, to lovingly press the barrel of a small handgun in the middle of their back and say, "Hi, what's your name?"
I'll pause you because the prep is to be in the right place to do that when the op starts. Yeah. So this sounds like maintain your cover to get up close. Yeah. So if you check out the maintain your cover in the basic moves, avoid the risk of exposure, blah, blah, blah. So you've said that you're trying to melt into the background. You're dressed I wasn't quite certain. Are you dressed as a local?
I think he's dressed as a local.
Okay. So disguise would be the ideal skill set, expertise. Do you have disguise?
I do not, no.
So I think that we're not rolling with expertise, therefore, so you're just rolling the middle dice. You get to roll the green dice if you want to increase your chance of success. And that success will be, you will be behind the guy that you think is spending most time on site, and therefore you are interpreting as lead. Fair?
Sounds fair.
Is there any way to assist in the disguise?
There is no way to assist in the game other than to call on a contact. So one way that we could come at this, Calder, would be that, okay, you roll the dice. If they're not the way you like, if this doesn't go well, you always have the option to call on a contact, flash back to someone who somehow can improve that disguise. You with me?
Is there a cost with that? Or
yes, it costs you stress.
Okay, stress. Okay, perfect.
Everything
All
costs you stress, basically.
right. Okay, good to know. Let's see how this goes.
Oh,
Oof.
look at that.
As it was bound to happen to someone.
Calder Knight, Master of Disguise, rolls a 6. It is on the stress dice, so stress automatically goes up by 1. But on a 6, not only do you maintain your cover, you succeed brilliantly. Control will agree with you what extra benefit you get. Well, it sounds like, that the barrel of your gun is discreetly pointed, maybe not in the back of his head, but certainly at his kidneys.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah, in
what
the
you
back.
want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also mark intel. So, that was a good thing. And you discover something about this conspiracy, and that is that while this guy looks local, he patently is not, right? So he is more professional than a bunch of locals recruited. But you don't have to roll for stress, because you only get stress can only go up once on any action. So you saved me the trouble. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So that's the setup then. Calder has identified them, and that's the point at which we begin to play. Yeah. So let me go round first to Eli. Eli, you used an investigative scene for the setup. So where are you in this scene or near this scene? Are you in the van? I don't know. Where are you, Eli, when we
I'll
open?
say kind of what I was thinking was like maybe if the van's set up for it, Eli's kind of camped out. I put my third area of expertise also as surveillance. So I think
Brilliant. Yeah.
Eli is kind of also, maybe also connected into that drone that Hanna has, and is kind of just, using it to like, keep an eye on things, and also, generally track kind of what's going on around the area.
Yeah, surveillance is spot on. So do you want to do anything with that surveillance, given the point we've got in terms of the situation?
That's a good point. Let me think. I guess right now, if possible, I think seeing that Calder is kind of about, could be in a potentially precarious situation, keep an eye on that specifically. Like, what are the other people doing? Have they noticed? So I could like radio them if it looks like they've caught on and it's going to turn sour.
That's fine. That's fine. I don't need you to roll for that. I just need to know that that's what you're doing. Overwatch.
Yeah, exactly.
Jan, where do we see you as we open the op?
I think Jan is trying to look, let's see, at least blend in somewhat. He probably is in a certain amount of disguise, but it's just like at a nearby like cafe, drinking coffee at a table or something along those lines.
Let me stress, locals selling to tourists, so the disguise could be as a tourist, if that's the way you want to look.
That probably works better then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because he's a pretty obviously not Arabic kind of guy from the picture.
Indeed.
So, well off foreign tourist, just loitering with intent. Do you want to do anything with the information you have about the way in, way out room for the hotel, or are you just going to sit tight for a bit?
I think I'm probably just going to sit tight for. I mean, I've passed this on, I assume, but aside from that, I think I'll sit tight.
Yeah, everyone knows everything, unless the positioning is bonkers. Okay, so Calder, I think that you are the person at the sharp end in terms of you have somebody with an earpiece, and you have a small handgun in the small of their back. Now, I am going to assume that Calder is lightly loaded because it fits with the idea that you're just a local in disguise. I'm going to assume that Jan is lightly loaded because he wants to look like a tourist. I will just ask Hanna, in terms of what you've got with you under that van, light, medium, or heavy, is there a black holdall underneath that van with you, or is it just you and what you're carrying?
So I think it's medium under the van, but it's stuff that I wouldn't mind leaving.
Okay, yeah, you can always leave stuff behind. That's not a problem. So mark medium on your load. And this means that anything in the equipment list that has a single box or two boxes, you could declare. In the case of Calder and Jan, lightly loaded, only stuff with one box can you declare. But you will notice, Calder, that includes a handgun. Eli, you're in the van.
Mhm.
If you had to run out of the van now, would you be light or medium or heavily loaded?
I think light.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think especially if Eli's using the van as like a storage, probably doesn't carry too much on him normally.
It's kind of a mobile safe house. We'll worry about the safe house at another time. So yeah, background to Calder then. That is the setup. What do you do?
Yeah, so I think Calder has the handgun pressed there, and he's going to say, bring your sleeve down for me, please. Away from your mouth.
Okay, so I think probably I need you to convince this guy to not make a fuss and to do what you want him to do. So I do notice that persuasion is in your skill set.
Yes.
So you are rolling with expertise. Would you like to include your stress dice to do something else, i.e. have him comply with your demands, or your gently asked requests?
Yes, my gently asked request. So I get the orange, the light gray, the green, and I believe one more, right?
No, you only get that one when you're being deadly. And I think at this point, once you shoot him, that dice comes into play. But right now, you're playing this quietly.
Okay.
Well, will you look at that? If only 2 6s were worth more than one. So the 6 on the stress dice means your stress automatically goes up.
Yes.
I'm getting the feeling Calder is slightly highly strung, but maybe we'll come to discover that later on. But on a 6, this goes brilliantly. So not only does he comply, what else do you want him to do that would be helpful right now?
I think he just, I don't know if it's recognizing my voice, perhaps. Maybe I've got a reputation. I think this individual just starts spilling the information I want.
So I'll let you ask him a question. What do you want to know?
Who are you and why are you here?
His name is Hashem, and he's here because he was paid to organize a team of people to watch a certain tourist.
Can I get a why?
All he does is he passes on information, and he's careful. He's careful to make sure that the microphone in his sleeve is far enough away from his mouth, so that he's not transmitting that information now. But as well as his team, the person who paid him is listening in. He assumes. Okay.
All right.
But on a 6, you also mark intel. You don't have to roll for stress because it already went up. Okay. So that's the developing picture. Let me go to Jan. Situation's changed slightly. Do you want to do anything, or are you still on a watching brief?
No, I think I'm still. I assume Calder has this under control. At the moment, I'm just sitting and sipping some tea.
Okay. And is your attention on the other watchers, or is it on the hotel?
Can I say yes?
You could, and I'll decide.
I think I have. I'm mostly watching the watchers, but I basically have I have my cell phone set down on like angled against like a little cream dispensary or something like that on my table, but it's actually off and angled so that I can see a reflection of the window of the room.
Okay. Eli, what about you? Content to let this play out, or what?
Yeah, I think Eli is gonna transition away from Calder and specifically start to like look more. So do we have a relatively clear view of some of these people's like faces, like the other watchers?
I think You could be taking photographs of them if you want. What have you got in mind?
Yeah, that's what I would like to. I was thinking he would like to get images and then at some point like try to run them through databases to see if he can like pull up like who are these people, who do they work for.
Okay. Do you want to do that now? Because
Yeah,
there's stuff in
sounds
the
good to
van.
Sure. Sounds good
I
to me.
will require you to declare a laptop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
To do that, or a tablet or whatever else you're using in there.
Yeah, I'll take a laptop.
Your phone is capturing the images. It goes into the laptop, and you start running image recognition through that keyhole you left at the NSA, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, it seemed stupid not to when you left.
Exactly.
So let's have you roll with, I think that's probably research. So I think it's with
Yeah,
expertise. You can
Okay.
add the stress dice if you want to roll 3 dice and not just 2.
Yeah, I think he's in enough of like, you know, it may seem slow now, but wants to get the information as quick as possible. So I'll add that stress in there.
Cool as a cucumber. And you can ask me a question, which is, I'm inferring the question here, right?
Mhm.
You get the basic information and ask me one question. Basic information, they come up on the NSA through its links to Interpol. To be honest, only the one that Calder has a gun on is high enough up the chain to have a kind of picture file.
Okay.
You're inferring the rest are members of a gang run by a Mohammed Yenol. Hang on, where's his name? I had a name. Mohammed. I used Hashem. Mohammed Jalil. There he is. Mohammed Jalil is a local crime lord. It would fit. If you were looking for some watchers, you might go to Mohammed Jalil and ask them to stake out a location. So I think the others you can put down as, you know, they are local thugs, come street kids who are here to watch. But they're being run by Hashem for Mohammed Jalil. Does that seem?
And yeah, and does Hashem also work for Mohammed Jalil as well?
He does.
Okay.
He does.
Awesome. Cool.
Does that seem like a reasonable information?
Yeah, I will. Eli will radio everybody through the comms to be like, you know, we've got looks like these folks are working for a local. You said he was like a gang or like crime lord.
Yeah. Gang leader. Crime lord's a bit grand for Marrakesh, I think.
Okay.
So Hanna, I will come to you in a moment, but first of all, I just want to make sure Calder is recognizing they're on 4 stress, and you've begun to get a feel for how lucky you can get when you roll a 6. So I do want to make sure Calder is keeping an eye on the seek relief from the horror rules, okay? But that's a decision for you to make. So Hanna, this is what's unfolding. Maybe from the tone of Calder's, because I should ask Calder, how does stress manifest for you? How does our audience know that Calder is just getting, you know, rather closer to the edge that he's maybe comfortable with?
So I think you see it in a couple of small mannerisms that like perhaps the team has picked up on because they've worked with him for so long. Like the obvious observer would not notice it. But there's a glint and a hunger in his eyes, and his teeth and his tongue tend to graze his lips a lot more than usual.
And knowing that, I'm just curious, Hanna, whether that causes you to do anything, or are you content just to sit under the van?
So I have a couple of questions for the players. The first thing is I want to point out that you can spend intel 1 for 1 during the briefing to reduce your stress. Is that right?
Yeah, that is true. We are now in the operation, not the briefing.
Right, we're in the operation. Number 2, can I get this ball rolling? Are we ready to get started?
Everyone's
I
on
just
site.
wanted to check in before I tossed in a screwball. Are we good?
Sounds good.
Hanna, I get the feeling that, you know, people are waiting for a ball to bounce somewhere.
Yeah, great. So what happens is I think I'm going to start a small fire or something that's very smoky This could be a small, firework smoke bomb or something like that underneath the engine compartment. And then I'm going to hop out with a fire extinguisher and start blasting it away and make basically a smoke screen for those who are more active than I am to see about. And I'm going to say, it's time to move. Let's go grab him and get him to a safe place.
Okay, so I think that's technical expertise, top and bottom. So middle dice, orange dice, and the stress dice if you want it.
Yeah, absolutely. Roll those.
Yeah, sitting there comfortable on 2 stress and still on 2 stress with a so you have a smoke screen. It's not a 6, it's a 5 on the dice, so it's not one that's going to hang around for a long time. So you have a limited window in which there is, foam and carbon dioxide and smoke and all kinds of stuff in this vicinity. Yeah. What, if anything, do you do with that, Jan?
I leave. I think he looks slightly annoyed as the smoke approaches his table, and just we see an older man threaten to like waft some smoke away as it kind of obscures our view, and then when the smoke has receded a bit, he's gone, and there's a little bit of cash under a teacup.
And so the waiter turns and but he picks up the money. He's very happy with that. Where do we then see Jan then?
I think Jan is going to have to go for. He's going for the hotel.
Okay, I will tell Eli that that smoke, that distraction, is causing the team of watchers, the other 2 watchers who are on site, to try to move, to try and keep a view on the hotel, on the entrance. Yeah.
Cool. So Eli calls that out, and he's like, "They're on the move. Like, gotta move quick, folks."
Calder, what about you?
So this is just to double check. This is the other team, not the one I'm in control of.
You're in control of the lead, but the 2 watchers that he is controlling, who are on site, are trying to move so they can keep eyes on the hotel door, which is, I guess, what Jan has just walked through under cover of the smoke.
Yeah. So I think Calder is going to whisper and tell him, "Tell your men you have visual. They should stand down."
And Hashem is no fool. He recognizes the shape of a barrel in the small of his back. You are going to begin to look slightly odd in a little while in terms of, the position that you are in. Someone may notice.
Yeah, I think I'm going to turn myself. So I'm standing next to or adjacent. And so it's not exactly at the kidney, but it's on the side of the body. The gun is pressed. But so as if we're admiring the view together from where we're standing.
Okay, that works fine. So he has a gun in his back. He has relatively little stakes in the higher order of this. If somebody with a gun wants this guy more than whoever's paying his boss to get this guy or keep an eye on this guy, I think Hashem will happily tell his team, it's okay, I can still see him. Make sure that you're still in position. And Eli, you will notice that works. Okay. Jan, this puts you in hotel reception, which is basically, a counter and some boxes with keys.
Okay.
And a guy. But you look well dressed. You look older and more prosperous than the kind of young students who usually guests. So the manager come receptionist is very interested in, well, how can I help you, sir? His English is good. He recognizes you're European. If English doesn't work, he'll try German. French as an option.
Jan speaks English, not like very heavily accented, I think, but yeah. I'm here to see a guest. Is it all right? I know the room.
I think that what passes for security here does.
Oh, and slip him some money as well. Just slip him out.
Oh, I see.
20 or something.
Okay, then I think that I think I'll have you roll disguise to whether you look innocent enough to allow upstairs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're rolling with expertise. because you are a convincing tourist.
Yeah.
Stress dice if you want to add it.
Sure. And I think also as part of that, I'm basically just, I'm not really asking permission. I'm just like, yeah, I'm here to see somebody. Money, ignore, walk. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, I think let's throw in stress die. Did you say expertise?
Yes, you have disguise, so you are a convincing innocent visitor.
And I will roll those.
Oh,
Okay, stress die high, but it's a
Yeah.
5.
so stress goes up by 1, but that is
All right.
success. He carefully takes the, I think it's reals in Morocco. He takes those off the top of the counter, smiles politely, and gestures up. The fact you know the room means he doesn't mention it, and up you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Calder, you've still got the guy. You're in a more unobtrusive position, just slightly back against a wall, maybe admiring the activities. I'm going to assume that carries on for a little while.
Yeah.
Hanna, you've put out the fire, inverted commas. Yeah.
I don't actually plan to put out the fire. I plan on turning the volume up a little bit and continuing to spread this fire extinguisher, the smoke a little bit further, until I know that Jan has made it inside and doesn't need the distraction anymore.
Well, I think that Jan tells you I'm in, so that's
Okay.
fine. Yeah, Jan is
Okay,
in.
so then I'll back off and kind of, try and stay in the center of that smoke screen until it's too light to see, and then I'll slip back under the van.
Yeah, I mean, because you didn't get a brilliant success last time,
Yeah.
I think that it's done its job.
Okay.
So it disperses, and we see you disappearing back under the van. Eli, where's your attention now?
That is a good question. I think because he's still sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. So Calder, you're still outside with the other individual, right?
Yeah.
Or have they moved? Okay. I think still watching that, because I'm trying to keep an eye on just trying to make sure that Calder's able to get somewhere or isn't getting people sending over to them. So just kind of keeping an eye on the situation.
Yeah, no, that seems to be, Calder seems to have that under control, though there's a slight kind of, there's something in his voice that suggests that, Calder may be getting to that point where sometimes he gets a little less patient, maybe, with people. So I will keep popping into Calder to say, remind you about Seek Relief from the Horror. But otherwise, I'm going to go with Jan inside. As you approach the room at the upstairs front of the Riad Rouge. And these are relatively flimsy doors, small rooms. What do you do?
I think that there's there's probably a more subtle way to do this, but Steve doesn't know what it is. So he's probably just going up to the room and counting on there not being on this guy not being armed and willing to shoot through a door. And I think I'm just going to knock on the door. Let's see where this goes.
Yeah, and I think the door will open. And I've put a picture of Oliver on the bottom of Operation 1. A slightly more worried version of the picture you'll see at the bottom of Operation 1. Kind of
understandably
peers out. Yes.
Hello. My name is Jan.
And of course, you sound Eastern European, don't you?
I definitely do.
He slams the door in your face. What do you do to try and stop him?
I knock politely. I actually don't stop him.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. And then I'll just be speaking through the door, in an attempt to try and I'm basically going to direct his attention outside those windows.
Okay.
Can you give me a position on the watchers? And then I'll direct him toward the locals who are watching him. Yeah. And then probably contrast that with some of the some of my team. Then also look over here. You can see these are the people who are like you, put into an unfortunate circumstance, and things like that. I'm just trying to calm them down.
I mean, to be honest, your disguise could extend to a variety of accents. We needn't tie you to that Eastern European.
Okay. I think though that I think Jan is fairly new to like fighting the conspiracy and maybe hasn't quite twigged to the idea that, you know, sometimes you shouldn't try to connect to somebody in a similar circumstance to you on an empathetic level. And he's just going for, this is somebody who is like me, and I'm going to reach out authentically. That's why he provided his real name, which is probably also a mistake.
So this would be a classic use of persuasion expertise, which you don't have. So
Yes.
You're rolling with the middle dice on its own, unless you put the stress dice in.
Well, of course I got to throw the stress dice in.
Who would want to roll with
Alrighty.
just one dice?
Hey, okay, boy, just checking off those boxes, aren't I?
Yeah, stress goes up by one, but you succeed. You succeed. You know that.
I'll take it.
So there's a pause, and Oliver says, "Are they there for me? Are you here to help?"
Yes and yes.
Did Madam Mina send you?
Oh, yes.
And yes, she did. Or if she did, you know, that's close enough to the truth for you to be able to tell it.
Yeah.
And she says, "What?" And so he opens the door and says, "What should I do?"
You should come with me. Grab enough of your things that you can fit into a sack, and that won't take longer than 20 seconds.
Yes. And he jams stuff into a rucksack that he's using. A camera, tablet, a change of clothes, maybe not
Anything
even a change of
informational?
clothes. Anything that he thinks is valuable. Yeah.
I'm just double checking with him. Yeah.
You can spend more time to help him make the choice, or you can go with what he thinks is important.
Well, then I'm going to check in. How are we?
Well, I think the situation is Calder is still on the boss. The two others stayed where they were, but they now have eyes on the hotel because the smoke screen has cleared. That's the pen picture,
Yeah.
unless somebody wants to correct me on that.
So
It was easy coming in, maybe less easy going out.
Yeah.
So basically, I can let you know that my exit plan is I'll hop in the driver's seat. I'll pull right up in front of the hotel. You guys can jump in the van, and then we'll peel off. Easy peasy, right? No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like
I foresee no difficulties.
Would rip open the side door and what? Yeah.
I suppose the only then question is how you're going to exfiltrate Calder, if that's the kind of get him from the hotel and speed away.
I don't know exactly where he's positioned, but it could be that he just steps up and gets in the passenger side.
Okay. I'll leave that for you to agree. So, Calder, you could take 10 steps across this square from where you're covering. You've got a gun on this guy and just climb into the passenger seat. I think making that go really well is where the vehicle's expertise sits. We don't have a driver with vehicle expertise, and nobody's chosen it. So I guess
No. Hanna's got vehicles.
I chose vehicles.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I beg your pardon. Forgive me. Oh, you are the hot driver. So this is just a straight, timing is perfect. Yeah. So, but I will have you roll the dice in case something interesting happens. So Jan is speaking to you saying, yeah, I'm coming down the stairs now. I'll be out reception in 10, 9. Let's have you roll the dice, Hanna, to see if you can position this so Calder can literally take 3 steps and get in. And Jan and Oliver can go in the side door. Yeah?
This will be the middle dice, the expertise dice, and the stress dice if I choose.
Yes, indeed.
And let's roll that.
Just curious, is there any mechanic for,
dear me. So
assisting or anything?
yeah, so this was all going so well. So on a 1 or 2, 1 to 3, I will mark heat, which is my track that allows me to make life difficult. I started on suspicious because it's 1 shot. So I've marked the first alarmed box of the heat track. And what it means is you fail, or control may offer you success at a cost or after a hard choice. I think that this is the point when the 2 watchers, not Calder's guy, the 2 other watchers, the lower rank guys, they spot something's fishy's going on. so they know that Oliver's going to be in there. Okay. Yeah. So success. Calder, do you take those steps and get in the van, or do you stay with the with Hashem?
Can I do something really quick with Hashem before I go into the van?
Of course.
I'm going to tell him, if you value your life and those that you care about, and I'm going to point out to the two watchers of the lower status that aren't with him, make sure your men take them out.
I just want to test here. Are you verbally abusing Hashem? Because you could seek relief from the horror just on the fly here.
I think if you're okay with that, I think I am. I think it's listen, you're going to do this, or unspeakable horrors will come to you and anyone with your lineage that you care about, the man who serves you your morning coffee.
That works for me. So the way Seek Relief from the Horror works is, as soon as you engage with it, you reduce stress by 1.
Woo.
No questions asked. Then you roll a dice to see what the consequences are. By tradition, it's the stress dice, because we all love it so much.
Okay. 4.
On a 4, behave badly. 4+, and they are an NPC. Mark heat and agree with control how this comes to the conspiracy's attention. Well, I think Hashem is going to end up. We'll have a cut scene where Hashem and 2 shadowy figures are in a room. One of them is Arabic. One of them has a British accent, and the one with the British accent is applying some extreme measures to Hashem to make sure that he doesn't make such a mistake when he's in the employ of certain people again. So I will mark heat. And then all I need from Hanna, because they did spot that you were loading Oliver, it is a simple flee for your life to get Oliver and the team away from this area before anyone on a motorbike can get in pursuit distance. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So vehicles is the skill for driving in dangerously crowded locations at speed. So,
and this is the same 3 dice.
Same 3 dice. If you want to include, you don't have to include the stress dice. It's
Right.
always an option.
So let's roll that. I got a 6 on the skill dice.
Okay, so flee for life on a 6, you succeed brilliantly. I will agree with you how it goes really well. Mark intel because it was a 6. But I will allow you to see somebody in the rear view mirror. That is the reason that you then get to roll for stress. So a guy steps out of a building behind where I'm sitting, and you can see him, and there is something just not nice. There is something sinister, deeply, deeply sinister about that man. So you've got intel. Tell me what extra benefit you want, apart from successfully fleeing for your life.
Okay. I think that I'm turn a corner and there's another vehicle there that it looks like we made a switcheroo, and that anyone in pursuit follows that vehicle instead. And not only did we get away, but they are headed the wrong direction.
Yeah, no, that works brilliantly. Fine. So no chance of any pursuit. You're away clean, but I do need you to roll for stress because he looked very professional.
And I rolled a 5, which is higher than my existing 2, so I will.
Stress was up by 1. And we are just coming to the hour, so I'm going to suggest is a break till 5 past long enough? Okay, then let's be back at our seats at 5 past the hour. Okay, we're back from our break. And we left Hanna driving away at speed through the Marrakesh souks with Oliver Liu in the back, Calder in the front seat, and Jan and Eli in the back. To whatever you're using as a safe house. We're only playing a 1 shot. I'm not going to characterize the safe house particularly, but we end up somewhere where you can have that conversation with Oliver. And I've summarized in the Character Keeper what he tells you. So he's a journalist with a reputation around investigating corporate corruption. And when Madam Mina, somebody called Madam Mina, sent him some information about a joint British-Romanian charity called Health Everywhere. And they have a program of a kind of traveling dental surgery that goes around rural bits of Romania, specifically Transylvania and the Carpathian Mountains. And Mina sent him some stuff that suggested that it was being funded by the Russian mafia. And what's interesting, Jan, is specifically the Lisky Bratva. And the truth is that the Black Sea Bank of Odessa is where you used to get paid from back in the day.
Gotcha.
So the Black Sea Bank of Odessa is the Lisky Bratva's bank. What a coincidence. Now, the thing that freaked Oliver a bit and almost made him bin the entire thing was that all of this was mixed up with weird shit about vampires. But he decided to ignore that, and having done a little bit of digging about this charity, they were worth a follow-up. So he bummed a plane ticket to Romania off some web-based news organization that would fund him for this. And he set off to Transylvania to see what he could find out. And he tracked them down, and he followed their kind of caravan of vehicles. So there's a kind of a bus with the people on, there's the traveling dental surgery, maybe a couple of other vehicles that kind of goes from rural location to rural location, sets up for several days, treats dental problems for free to the local population, and then moves on. The odd thing was, however, that, and this played back to something that Madam Mina had implied in what she'd sent him, was that they were scouting out a variety of old ancient locations. So it felt like every time they stopped somewhere, it was a hamlet or a village in the shadow of some castle or monastery or ruin. But Oliver's conclusion is that they are scattered all over Romania. So, every backwater village has got some ancient ruin. So he ignored all of that. But about a month ago, which would fit Eli with your kind of tracking of his itinerary, about a month ago, he followed them to a tiny mountain hamlet called Kulomino. He stayed in the nearest town and then hiked up into the hills to Kulomino, just half a dozen miles away, hiked up there so he could just see what they were doing. And he'd asked some questions at the mayor's office, and they knew all about them, and it seemed like they were doing exactly what they did everywhere else he'd spotted them. But just 2 or 3 days after 2 or 3 days, they've treated everyone who needs treating, so that's the time at which they move on. They didn't. Instead, rather than packing up and moving on, they moved to a meadow in front of that was outside an abandoned monastery, abandoned medieval monastery. And instead of them moving on, some heavy machinery turns up on the back of flatbeds and a busload of what looked like kind of laborers. Now, he then went back to the mayor of the town nearby and said, what's going on? And the mayor said, oh yeah, they found some archaeological ruins and they've got the right permits. So there's nothing to worry about. They're fine. The weird thing is that they were using bulldozers, 2 bulldozers on the back of this flatbed, to do archaeology, and all of us, that's weird, isn't it? It looks like they've gone into the middle of this kind of quadrangle of ancient monastery, and they seem to be bulldozing bits of stuff in there. He couldn't get close enough. He took some pictures of the site, but it seems odd. And then he went back to his hotel that night and got a visit from a couple of really scary guys. And they were sufficiently scary that though he thought they bought the "I'm just a tourist walking the hills" cover, He decided he'd leave that night. Unfortunately, as he was descending out of the mountains, he discovered that his brake cables had been cut. He managed not to go off the edge, but at that point he abandoned the car and worked his way south out of the Balkans into Turkey, using cash whenever he could. And then finally got a flight to Marrakesh because a contact in Cairo told him that he could get, if he got to Marrakesh, somebody could give him papers that will get him out of the country discreetly, because he's scared shitless. So that's what he will spill without any questioning at all. Yeah. Do any of you want to ask him any questions? Let me start with Eli.
Well, just from my own understanding. So, because you had mentioned the information I found was that he'd gone to Cairo and then to Marrakesh? Is that what it was, or was that
you had a gap between the abandoned car, which fits with what he's just told you, and then the flight from Cairo. So the bit you're missing is the trip from Romania south into Turkey through the Middle East to Cairo, and then you pick him up again when he has to use his card to buy a ticket.
Yeah, I'd like to actually just try to like I think Eli is like going through trying to like talk through, and like, I think he's going to be kind of like straightforward and be like, I've, been able to like follow your movements. We've been trying to watch you and make sure you're okay. Trying to play it, smooth, but, and explicitly ask him about that gap. Like, can you tell me what happened in between, the time that, from here to here, like, can you give me a quick summary? Was there anything of note?
He'll absolutely straight. No, he an old university friend of his works for the British Embassy in Turkey, in Istanbul, and he contacted her, and she wired him some cash money to get him down through the Balkans, as far as Istanbul, and to get him from there heading south. No questions asked.
Yeah. Then my next question would be: has he talked to her since?
Now I think I need you to roll to investigate, because that's the basic they'll give you for nothing. So I think insight does apply here, as you try to connect all these dots. So you are rolling with expertise, the stress dice if you want it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Look at that, the stress dice is highest. So you can ask me one more question, but stress is going to go up by 1.
Okay. Yeah, I guess the question is, has he checked in on his friend since?
No.
To make sure that she's okay.
To be honest, he thought it best that he didn't, because obviously he doesn't want any of this shit to go her way.
Yeah.
And then you can see him thinking, shit, I just told them about her. Fuck. Yeah. He seems genuine, I guess, is what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
What about Calder? Calder, do you want to turn up the heat?
He seems kind of cooperative. So I think less turn up the heat and more sort of suave James Bond-esque charm, coming in.
So this is persuasion rather than cleaning your gun.
Yeah, this is persuasion rather than cleaning my gun.
Okay.
It doesn't seem necessary to clean my gun right now.
Okay, well, let's have you roll with expertise. You can put the stress dice in there if you want to.
I'm gonna not.
Yeah, why risk it going up when it just went down, for God's sake? Yeah, so just roll the 2 dice.
Oh, for some reason it didn't roll the bottom one.
Well, it doesn't matter, it's a 6.
Oh yeah, it's a 6 here.
So that's as good as it gets. So you get to ask me 2 questions, but the bit what are you interested in? And I'll give you something for free before you ask those questions.
Mm-hmm. What am I getting for free before I ask those questions?
Sorry, I just need to have some broad idea of the area of your question.
So I think I'm curious who or what, if he identified any particular like shady individual, perhaps someone I might know from my being a cog.
Okay. No, that I think that's a good one. I think that he has some photographs, which he'll happily upload onto Eli's laptop. And some of them are a bit grainy. They're photographs from the edge of this meadow of this, archaeological dig stroke building site. And I think that there is somebody clearly in charge of the security at the site. I think that's what you get for nothing, is that those workers are not just there to shift rubble. They are there as security. And you can see from the pictures that a perimeter is being set up. I'm not going to give you a name. I'm going to wait to give you an opportunity to do that later.
Okay.
May I make a suggestion?
Oh, please
Would
do.
it have made sense that this was the guy that I saw in the rearview mirror and I recognize him from the photo?
I would be prepared to have that happen.
Just to amp things up a little bit.
Okay. So it's not someone you know,
Nice.
but it is someone the team has encountered, if you're happy with that, Kay.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay, so now you get 2 questions to ask me.
All right, it's not someone I know. 2 questions.
No, look, let's. You didn't get it from Hannah's description. If you want to spend one of those questions to say, is this someone I know? And you want me to answer yes, then I will answer yes.
Yeah, I like that for the storyline.
Okay. Do you want to give this guy a name?
No, I want you to.
Okay. I'm going to call him Jack Brewer. And Jack.
Do we want to
Oh
call
no,
him
we've got a
Brewer?
brewer. We've got a brewer. Jack Billings.
Billings, all right.
And you came across Jack Billings at a joint Navy SEAL SAS training exercise. When he was an NCO, a sergeant in the SAS.
Okay.
So he's a Brit. And your recollection is that he was a hard bastard. But when you look at the pictures that Oliver took, he's bulked up a lot.
Ooh, okay.
He was never a weak man. He was always a strong man, but he's built now. And I think that's the 6 gives you intel. You have a second question left to ask me, but that 6 also requires a roll for stress.
Okay.
So real quick, just for clarification, he's bulked up a lot in like a week?
No. He's bulkier in the pictures
Then, okay.
than he is when Calder knew him. Yeah, knew him.
Gotcha.
So quick question. When you say bulkier, are we talking like my frame, similar to the picture? Or
no.
are we talking like muscle man, this guy's gonna go Mr. Universe?
Yeah, this is more I guess Schwarzenegger.
Okay.
This is a vastly muscled guy. A kind of, I don't want to say unnaturally muscled, but I could be forced to say that.
I could be forced to say that. All right. Yeah, I think my next question is going to be, I want to know, did he ever specifically see this quote unquote this tooth surgery? Like were they actually performing this deed and that's just regular guys, or were they doing something insidious to these people?
The simple answer to that is no. He talked to the mayor of the nearby town. His practice was not to ask the people in the villages where they set up, because he didn't want to draw attention to himself. These are small villages. It was going to be very obvious if he was particularly nosy there. So he cannot confirm what was going on inside that dental surgery van.
Okay.
Yeah. What he will confirm is that one of the vehicles that turned up when the heavy diggers turned up seem to have a refrigeration unit on it.
Okay.
Yeah. So all that's left then is you owe me a roll for stress, Calder.
Yes.
Assuming you've already marked intel.
Yes.
Oh, lots of intel about now.
Hey.
Will you look at that? Stress goes up.
Oh.
That kind of slightly gritty teeth, licking lips thing is becoming more prevalent, team, just so you know that Calder is drifting up. What about Jan? Do you have a question for Oliver?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mina suggested that there was funding from the Lisky Bratva. Did you find evidence of such?
No. What the objective of the field test of the field trip was really to confirm that they existed, what they were doing, where they'd been doing it. His next step was going to be to try and dig into the finance.
Okay.
But given that she was spot on with everything else she told him, his inclination is to, that this would be worth digging into if it wasn't too fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of this, and people, if you're worried about where BMW is spending its expenses, nobody comes and cuts your brake lines.
Yes, it sounds like you were lucky to get away, and lucky to have us find you.
Well, so far you are a lot better than the alternatives. You haven't threatened him yet.
Give us time. What is this about? What's the nonsense about vampires? And I'm basically seeing if I can maybe fit that in with confusion about gang markings or rituals or cult beliefs or something like that.
Okay. Well, I now think we are into roll the dice for investigate, because I've given you what you get for nothing. What approach are you taking? Because I'm not sure a disguise is going to work now.
Yeah, that wasn't going to be the approach. Pardon me. Let me go into the other room for a few minutes, and
a very
then
nice gentleman will come back. Just answer any of his questions. So I think it's only the middle dice unless you put stress in. And I will remind you that you're on 4 stress.
No reminder needed. Yeah. I think. Let's see. I think I'm still sticking with the thing I'm not actually good at. I'm just talking to him.
Fine.
I'm basically just going with persuasion.
So middle dice, and we'll see what happens.
Middle die. And then screw it, stress die. All right, let's do it. That's how you can tell it's a one shot. Don't be high again. At least it's a 6.
It is a 6. So stress goes up automatically. Fine and dandy. You get a point of intel, but you also get to ask Oliver 2 questions about where you started or anything else that's come to mind. And let me stress, folks, feel free to source the table if you're beginning to run out of options.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that we are especially curious about that we might want to know?
So I have a meta question, which is, how much do we know about vampires? Do we know vampires?
Yeah. You believe that there is a shadowy conspiracy, right? You believe that at the top of that conspiracy, it's at least something supernatural, and you've seen enough, if it's about blood banks being raided or whatever else, to cue you into vampire conspiracy.
Oh, so we do have some hints in that direction.
At the very least. You believe, you are true believers, okay, that there is a vampire conspiracy, but you have never encountered a vampire. You've encountered some weird shit that maybe is what set you on this trail. Were you to seek relief by revealing some of your history together, we might fill in some of those blanks. But right now, you know that there's something supernatural out there, and you believe it to be vampires.
Would we have been briefed on supernatural countermeasures?
By whom?
By Mina.
No.
Okay.
No. Mina's testing you. The question is, can you survive long enough to be a useful tool for her? I think is the conclusion. So I think those are meta questions. I don't think they're questions for Oliver. So Jan, you still got 2 to play with.
Okay. In that case, I actually probably wouldn't have poo-pooed the notion of this, actually being about vampires. Let's see. So I think so. Can I? I think a nice thing to do to try and build some rapport here would be to maybe reveal some history about history between me and somebody else, and we can kind of bring in, hey, when I encountered so and so, we were investigating this blood bank or something like that.
Let me remind you before we do that you rolled
Mhm.
a 6, so you should mark intel.
Alrighty.
So yes, let's seek relief from the horror by reveal some of your history together. This does require you to identify either the person you care most about or the person you care least about.
So which one of you, which one of the other player characters is, seems to be doing this for the most altruistic reasons?
Well, that's a good question.
It's Eli.
Okay.
Aside, Eli's
Eli.
challenge. I feel like both, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, I think both Hannah and I are doing this in a sort of vendetta, revenge, sort of personal stakes.
Cool.
Whereas Eli altruistically, like, I'm curious.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of
Then
like it started off as curiosity and developed into like, oh god, this is bad. We need to do something about it. Like,
I think that's very fair.
So Eli is the one I care most about then.
Okay, just put Eli down in that box, and then let's engage with. If you reveal, so first of all, reduce stress by 1, Jan. Then, if you reveal something new about your history with the operator you care most about, work your way through this series of recollections in any order you like. Oh, you are muted.
Dang it. Eli, how do you feel about first recollection being investigation? Actually, I kind of just like investigation into a blood bank that got onto our radar, something like that.
sure, sounds good to me.
So, Jan, give us that recollection.
I gave my name. I don't think I would give up your other names unless you have introduced yourselves as your own names.
Oh, I think no one's assuming that the names on the character sheet are the ones that you lived under.
Okay, that's fair. So Eli here and I first met, bumped into each other when we were investigating well, you speak of vampires. We were investigating a blood bank, rumored to be bankrolled by the Lisky Bratva, whom I used to work for.
Oh, that gives him pause. He's heard of Lisky Bratva.
And so you speak of them funding this this organization of teeth pullers and whatnot. Insidious pullers of teeth, yes. I am intrigued. But you speak of vampires, and I am less dismissive than you might be for various reasons that I won't get into. But let's say it started with a blood bank. Tell us what you know of this.
That's what I need. So roll a d6 now to see how Eli reacts broadly to this opening of a box.
Poorly, I think.
1. Okay, so why then, Jan, on a 1 to 3, say why you feel bad about the event you're remembering?
I think that I think it's because we were not circumspect enough, and our investigation brought shined enough light on this place that our surveillance is interrupted by basically the place getting firebombed and everybody inside dying.
Great. You cannot use your expertise again until stress goes up because you feel that bad about it now you come to remember it. You'll find on the character sheet there's a little drop down where it says expertise available. It will stay unavailable until stress goes up again, though you can spend some intel later to maybe get it back. Or you introduce your anchor into the narrative. So how important is your anchor, Jan? Is it more important than your expertise or less important than your expertise?
Well, I wrote all these things on a sheet and it's a one-shot. May as well use them. So introduce in what way? Conversationally,
Well,
or
all it says is, or choose to add something about your anchor to your recollection. So did you have a conversation with your anchor about what had happened? Anything at all that tells us some more about that anchor? Because so far to the audience, they're nobody.
right? Okay, yeah.
So how was, I've forgotten your anchor's name. It is
Ludvika.
Ludvika.
Yeah. I think that Ludvika, again, is former Interpol, has she's a little older, former Interpol, but has contacts there still. And probably I'm guessing my name probably came up, and then someone who knew we were linked in, happened to pass something her way. And so I will just bring that up.
So that tells me she's no longer with Interpol.
Correct.
What does she do?
Probably I don't have a clear idea, so I'm going to leave it at consultant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now consultant ... Okay. You don't lose your expertise. Everything is fine. I just mark Ludvika as a conspiracy target.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that we see Ludvika leaving an office block where she's been doing some consultancy. And as she walks away, we see a young woman in a hoodie and dark glasses begin to follow her. So somebody's interested in Ludvika.
Okay.
We might find out who later. So all of that went well, didn't cost you anything. And your stress went down by 1. But you also wanted to turn that into a question to them, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not rolling with expertise, but maybe now you feel you could include your stress dice.
Yeah, it's been going great so far. I think I'm going to, but why not? I think I'm going to not resist and roll with the stress die. And I'm basically.
Oh.
This is familiar good news, bad news right here.
Okay, so stress goes up by 1. But you get 2 questions and you mark intel. So you have 2 questions you can ask now, or 2 answers you can extract from all of it. What do you want? What do you want to know? Do you want to know more about the vampire thing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, he didn't keep those. He has those files are at home. He didn't bring them with her. But Mina sent him stuff that it was like everywhere that they went, there was some kind of link to vampire mythology. So they go to this castle, and it's a castle which is said to once have housed a vampire. They go to this ruin, and it's a place where a vampire was killed. They go to this monastery, and it's a place where some corrupt Orthodox monks were worshipping a vampire. That's the kind of thing you're talking about. And I think that's probably why the stress goes up, because you gain an impression that Transylvania, every village has a connection to a vampire. But what he can't explain is why they didn't dig up anywhere else if this is supposed to be real.
Looking for something specific.
That's the impression you take away.
Presumably.
Another question, because it was a 6.
Who is Mina?
Oh, he doesn't know. He genuinely doesn't know. It just
You know nothing of her?
No. I mean, she sent me this stuff. She sent me a few tidbits about this charity. And when I reacted positively, she suggested that they were worth investigating. I will say that I used my friend's embassy email to email the email address for Madam Mina saying, shit, I'm in trouble. I'm heading, I'm told I can get out in Marrakesh. And I think that
You told her that you were going to Marrakesh?
Yeah, because that's what everyone told me was that, the most illegal place in North Africa that I'd be able to get some kind of papers and get home.
Is home China these days still?
No, he can't work in
UK?
China.
Oh.
UK.
Okay.
And you get if you do the timing, that isn't far from maybe Mina got that, pulled together some stuff, and then involved you.
Okay.
So it could be that
makes sense.
Mina was trying to help him, is I think a reasonable conclusion. Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. And it's early and brain was not firing on all cylinders.
Stephen, what about you? Do you have an area you'd like to quiz Oliver on before we move on?
I don't think so, but I do have a scene. I think that Hannah's bad cop, right? Hanna gets up and says, okay, now we need to check out the truth of all of this. And I think probably zip ties his arms behind his back whenever he's not expecting, roughly grabs his head and starts checking out his neck to see if anything's going on. And then probably takes like a religious symbol, a holy symbol, a crucifix, and presses it to his forehead, and then shines one of those UV lights around on him just to scare the piss out of him, right? She's looking to see, is he a vampire, but it's clumsy, and I think it just scares him all to hell.
I think that I'm going to use, if you want to question him, I'm going to allow you to use your tradecraft, actually, because I think that's classic discomfort.
So Stephen doesn't have any questions other than what we've already answered. Did anyone have any suggestions? Or otherwise, I'm fine with just having that being a narrative scene.
Nothing else I can think of.
I'm tapped.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Okay. You don't find any, there are no repeated two pinpricks in the neck. He reacts to the light out of shock, not out of fear, and it does not burn him. And the religious symbol that you press to his forehead, he says, "What are you doing? I'm not a Catholic." And you don't know that any of those things work, right?
Right.
One of the ways you can spend intel is to tell me if they work. But I think that's Oliver done. What are you going to do with Oliver? Because you've got him in Marrakesh. He wants to go home. Please, God, let me go home. How are you going to get him? Are you just going to dump him out the van in Marrakesh?
So Hanna absolutely tells him, you can never go home again. They are watching you. We got you out. We saved your life. You go home. They know where your home is. They will get you.
Okay, Eli chimes in and is like, nature of the business. He's like, you kind of get used to it.
So what, you just dump him in Marrakesh?
No.
No.
Maybe call Mina and see what the next step is that she suggests.
Look, you're not going to get anything from Mina. Mina is just an email contact. And she's certainly not going to fish you out. Calder, suggestions?
Yeah, so I think Calder's going to look to Eli and say, can you do some magic with his bank accounts and get it unvisualized? And I don't know, where's a city you've always wanted to visit that you've never been before?
I'll tell you, mechanically, you can spend a point of intel to give him cover.
Yeah.
That's not a good idea.
Yeah. So it's simply a question of who's going to spend that point of intel.
I'm happy to do it. I have more than everyone.
Oh gosh, yeah, you do have a lot. Okay, spend a point of intel, and through a fixer in Marrakesh, or your own efforts, you can provide a reasonable cover for Oliver that should allow him to find somewhere else in Europe to live. Whether he'll ever be able to work again is a different question, but you've done what you can.
Yeah, you stay there, and if we need you, we'll find you, and you'll be of service to us.
Yes, you know his new name. But yeah, this is not witness protection in any kind of heavy sense, but you've given him some breathing space. So you know everything that you're going to know before your boots on the ground in Transylvania, because I'm assuming that's where you're heading. Yeah, it being a one-shot and all. So, but we'll do the proper debrief, which is the debrief, which is that, I ask you some questions. Did the team achieve the stated objective of the operation? Yes, you did. Yeah. Did you neutralize a significant member of the conspiracy or a beast, a supernatural? I don't think so. Hashem was not high enough up the tree for that. So I will reduce heat by 1 for that one yes, which is no bad thing. And each of you gets to, because you succeeded in the operation, you all reduce stress by 1.
Mm-hmm.
Never a bad thing. And then in downtime, if you look at the other rules, during downtime, you can spend intel 1-to-1 to reduce stress as you realize that knowledge is power. You can spend intel to reduce heat. You're not in a position where everyone's in the wind yet. You could spend intel to take your consultant friend off the conspiracy radar, Jan, if you had intel you wanted to waste that way. Sorry, use. And so on. So those are the things you can do. At any time, you can recover expertise, but nobody's in that position, or you can just lead to the nature of a supernatural. But you can do that when you encounter a supernatural. So again, I don't think that's something I'd recommend to you in downtime. Or each of you could have a scene to seek relief from the horror if you wanted it. So let me go back across the board, starting with Stephen. Does Hanna want to seek relief from the horror or spend some intel?
I don't think so, not right now.
Okay. Moving along to Jan.
I feel like I'd like to spend something, but I'm not sure what on.
Well, give it some thought. I'll come back to you just to check in. What about Calder?
So I think I definitely want to seek some relief. Possible idea. I was getting consent as for from Jan's player.
Oh, right.
That perhaps hearing how this this severe screw up happened, I think Calder in his tense state may berate Jan.
Now, I will warn you that there is a possibility that Jan ends up rolling for stress at the end of this.
Jan is fine with that.
Okay.
Jan is used to that.
So just set the pair of you. Let's have a scene. So Calder, you kick it off.
Yeah. So I think they've moved Oliver out now. That's sort of taken care of. And at first, Calder is sort of stewing. He's pacing around this area they have. He's like downed a glass of water, and his eyes keep flickering to wherever Jan is sort of situated, back and forth until eventually there's this heavy thunk of his boot falls as he goes over to Jan. Just his own bottom lip is chewed out from the stress he is under, and he looks at Jan and he's like, "How could you do that? You're the oldest and wisest of us.
What are you talking about?
Mess up so badly. To think that for a moment I thought watching you might teach me something. Perhaps instead you should stay in the back with Hanna. Maybe having you out and about a geezer that keeps making such choices is really not in our best interest."
You speak of the fire. You speak of the blood bank. You can learn things from me if you are wise. Sometimes that's going to be what not to do.
So we can work out which way the rest of this conversation goes. Will you now reduce stress by 1 and roll the dice, Calder?
Yes. Which dice am I rolling?
Just the stress dice, because this is just to work out the consequence of this approach or this.
Hey,
A 6. Okay. So on a 4+, and they are a PC, they are an operator. They take it really badly, and then they are going to roll for stress. So Jan, let's have you take it really badly.
All right. My plan was to roll into, after this, basically boozing it up. Am I rolling the dice in response to this before any of that?
No, just tell me what pisses you off in it. How does this bit of the scene play out? Then we'll have you roll for stress. Then we'll see where that takes you. Yeah.
Yeah. As we basically at the same time say what not to do, Jan kind of toasts Calder, and then takes a drink, and just kind of not swivels, because it's not a swivel chair, but like, scrape of wood on wood, moves his chair to the side and is kind of staring out the window of their safe house. We are done, and it's just moves the alcohol closer to him.
Now, just so I finish Calder,
Yeah.
do read what it says about a 6, but finish up that scene.
Yeah, he's going to sort of look at him and say, really, a bottle. That's where you're going to sort of bring this? I don't drink. Your body should be a temple. You're an operative.
This temple is one of the funner ones.
I think perhaps it's a ruin, and we should be careful because our enemies find value in ruins. And then I think he turns and walks away.
Lovely. And on a 6, it was really worth it. Reduce stress by another 1, Calder.
Oh, cool.
Let's have Jan roll for stress. I thought you were going to roll it into punching him, but that's okay. Roll for stress.
Also,
See what the actual effect.
Rule number 1: do not punch the assassin.
Yeah. Quick little thing just for role play, and I'll go after. I think when the story comes up and Yan pulls the bottle out, and there's the squabble, Eli then sits down right next to him, clinks glasses, and is just like, "I hate that day," and like starts drinking with him.
A nod and a yeah.
Like that.
My roll is a 2,
which means stress doesn't go up. Calder is water off your duck's back. See, the nice thing about this is as stress goes up, you're less likely to have stress go up.
Yep.
But you are indulging a vice, I think.
Indeed.
Reduce stress by 1, roll a d6. Let's see how that plays out.
Okay. I'm rolling the, whoops, can I undo? Yeah, there we go. Another 2.
2, if you get drunk or high, 1 to 3, you're ashamed of yourself and distracted by your need for just 1 more drink or hit. You cannot use your expertise until stress goes up again.
Back to that. All right.
Back to that. Eli, are you actually getting drunk with him?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have you roll a dice to see what the consequences for you are. Reduce stress by 1. That's automatic.
Okay. 4.
4 plus mark heat and agree with control if you made a scene that attracted unwelcome attention, let something slip to the wrong person, overlooked something crucial, or stole something from another operator to pay for or cover up your behavior.
So I'll run this by you because this is what I was thinking. So originally I was going to try to do some research on like the background of the dental place.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be possible for like overlook something crucial that he just like going to the bottle just completely doesn't even like think to research it, just completely goes off his mind and completely like drops the ball on even.
I'd like to push a bit further than that. Sure. And that is that very unwisely after getting pissed, he does do that research. And we cut to some conspiracy data processing core somewhere where someone is there's just a little beam, 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 a little warning light alongside health everywhere, research undertaken. And somebody says over their shoulder, just follow up where that came from, would you? Cool. And that allows me to mark heat. Yeah.
Nice. I like that, yeah.
But your stress went down. What the hell? That leaves, I think, Hanna with the opportunity to seek relief from the horror, or anything else?
No, the only thing I have again is narrative, and I think it's Hanna, it's kind of in the safe house in the corner with a whole bunch of like electronics strewn about, and it's kind of working on stuff. And maybe that will be some equipment that we pop in later. And then I think late into the night, she's sitting there with like a lamp, reading through these dusty old tomes that, you know, are like conspiracy theory kind of things. Like, oh, vampires have to count things and, you know, can't cross running water and stupid things like that. Yeah.
Fine, fine. I will just introduce you to the creatures tab. What you'll find there are powers, compulsions, deterrents, and vulnerabilities. You have to spend intel to work out those. Some may be revealed in play, and I'll just mark them up. But you cannot come up with a vulnerability until you've identified a deterrent, and you cannot come up with a deterrent until you've identified a compulsion. Right?
So I actually had a quick question
Sure.
about spending intel. What exactly are the options for that?
Okay,
And
if you have a look at the other rules tab,
Mhm.
there's a section in there called Intel,
there we go.
and at different phases of the game, you can spend at different times. I mean, I'm about to call a brief break, and then we'll come back from that, do what I hope is a pretty swift briefing on the next op, and then run to conclusion with that op. Yeah, that's my plan. So any other questions before we take a brief break?
I think I'm good.
Okay, then I will see you on the hour, shall we say? Yeah, fine. I'll see you then. I'll pause the recording. So I'm going to cut straight to Kulomina in Transylvania. Okay, and we'll run. I've added Operation 2 and put some of the details in there. My working assumptions at this point. Okay, and you can alter these. The lead is all about this dental charity now undertaking archaeology with bulldozers. Operational objective to start with is find out or stop what's going on at Kulomina. Broad enough. Who or what is the focus? I think the charity and what they're actually doing. Where the long abandoned monastery of Our Lord's Sacred Heart overlooking the mountain village of Kulomina in Transylvania. I think the likely opposition must be conspiracy special forces contractors, because we know that Jack Billings was on site, and that would suggest a degree of serious opposition. And what I've done is to suggest that those contractors are guarding an innocent, inverted commas, location, because the photographs, and I think Calder's observations of those photographs, suggest that those aren't just laborers. I think that's where the briefing starts. So again, I'm going to ask if you want an investigative scene to have done some investigation about the site or the charity or what's going on there, or do you want to hold it for a preparation scene that would then give you fictional positioning as before? So let's go back round. Let's start. Stephen. Investigate or prepare?
I think prepare.
Okay. I'll move past you then to Steve. Jan. Is Jan investigate or prepare?
I would like to investigate, but I'm open to ideas as to in which direction.
Well, at the moment, all you know is what's written on that tab.
Right. I'm kind of one thing I'm wondering about, but I don't know how helpful it's going to be, is history of this place, things along those lines. But I don't know if my skill set suits us to it.
If you're looking for suggestions, one option would be to see if you could find out what security company is protecting this place and get guard uniforms. That does
go
into your wheelhouse.
Yeah, okay. I think that that fits, that works. So yeah, let's see.
I mean, one of those sounds like investigate, the other one sounds like prepare. So prepare, for instance, would be to have in advance called on a contact to get you forged credentials. Because I'll be honest with you, from the pictures, these guys are not in mall cop uniforms. Yeah.
Okay.
They are clearly armed, but they're not uniformed. Deliberately not uniformed, I think, probably.
I think I'm fine with that then. Prepare in the direction of get some forged credentials.
Okay. What about Calder?
I think I'm going to have a situation where I'm gonna place myself, I think.
Okay, so prepare rather than investigate. And finally, Eli.
Yeah, I think because I had mentioned it during his like drinking binge, I think I'll do the investigate on specifically Health Everywhere's background to like just try to dig up where they came from and as much as I can gather about them.
Okay, so let's have that investigate now, and that is just a straightforward U laptop research. So with expertise, your expertise is available. Stress dice if you want to include it.
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, you got one stress, Eli, you know.
Exactly.
Push that boat further from the shore.
All right.
5. Okay, so I think that what you get from normal sources is an Anglo-Romanian charity that does exactly what it says on the tin. But you can corroborate what Madam Mina indicated about its dodgy funding. And that, I think, opens the box on the Lisky Bratva's relationship to the conspiracy. Do you want to ask me a specific question? Because the 5 gets you a question, as well as that basic.
That's a good question. Let's see.
Particularly, I suppose, a question that might give you some leverage on the ground.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I don't know. I'm stumped. I would actually like to open up to the group if possible. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what would be to get us a little leverage.
I mean, I'm prepared to flex the source of the research and have you, because you're good at rabbit holes, to follow the rabbit hole that says, something about the monastery.
Wait, with the what, sir?
Something about the monastery, if that would be helpful.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if they're
don't feel you have to stay, on the charity unless you've got a really, a question you desperate to ask.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. I think that sounds good because like as a why connecting why they're currently there.
I think what you will find is that this was abandoned in the 1700s. And the detail of the abandonment is a bit unclear. If you had another question, we could maybe go a bit further, but abandoned in the 1700s. Under communism, it had some function in state security.
Interesting. Okay.
What that was is unclear.
Okay. Is it owned by anybody, or is it just public land?
Okay, it is now technically owned by the state, so the Romanian government own it.
Okay.
And that might explain why the mayor had to sign off on an archaeological dig kind of agreement. Though it does strike you that's a pretty low level in the government to be signing off on something like this. After the wall came down, it seems to have simply been abandoned.
Interesting. Okay.
But you will find rumors that an evil spirit was condemned to hell here by the monks who previously occupied this back there in the 1700s, or had done for the previous 400 years.
Cool.
Does that seem enough, or do you want a bit more detail around any of that?
That sounds good to me. Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back around then for preparatory. Let's start, because I've not started in the middle. So Calder, let's start with you. What kind of preparations do you want to make, and what kind of fictional positioning are you looking for?
So I think Calder has spent some preparation, some time scoping out the area, finding where everyone is. And since we're drawing to time, I would love for him to be in a position where he sort of opens a door and just walks into like purposefully walks into where Jack Billings is.
Okay. Let's have you roll. I'm going to give you military fieldcraft because this is about, scanning the site and working out, best ways in, best ways out. So with expertise, stress dice if you want, and success will put you where Billings is when things get interesting. Yeah?
Yes, sounds great.
Oh, look
Ooh.
at that. Look at that. So on a 6, this goes brilliantly, Mark, intel. And I will tell you this, that Billings is back on site. And you tell me what you want. The position is going to be is that you will be able to confront Billings from the go. Yeah? But what other advantage do you want?
I want Billings to have been maybe on like whatever his version of a break is. Like this is the break room. So perhaps he's not as readily armed or prepared to deal with something because things are supposed to be handled. He's getting his nap or his 8 hours or food or whatever.
How does this sound? You work out, because it looks like they've moved into the monastery building, right? So you know which window is his, and you know that he will be off duty, inverted commas, whether you go in daytime or nighttime, whichever time it is, he will be off duty.
Yes.
Yeah. But I will tell you something else from that 6. That just because in part it's all that stuff Hannah's been doing about UV light and holy symbols and shit. What you notice as you observe Billings around the site is that he stays in the shade of the buildings. Even when the simple thing to do would be just to walk 5 paces out into this sunny Romanian afternoon to tell somebody something, he walks to the end of the shadow and calls them to him.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, so I am going to add Billings to the creature tab, and I'm going to add a deterrent, which is direct sunlight.
All right.
Okay.
And then, yes, and then in this moment, may I use intel to, so it says add 1 obstacle per operator to the next operation. That's
I was going to come to that, but by all means, go ahead.
I'd like to do that.
So what obstacle do you want to look cool confronting?
I'd like to give that to you.
Well, I mean, the obvious one is a 1-to-1 with Jack Billings.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think that would be very fun.
Well, if you want to type into Calder Night 1-to-1 with Jack Billings, you've spent the intel. That's good by me. Next prep, let's go to Jan.
Okay, so Jan is aiming to have some sort of credentials that would, I think, allow them entry to the site. One way to go with that maybe, and see if this resonates or sounds about right. So you mentioned, the mayor signed off on this, but that seems kind of low level. So we might be able to masquerade as somebody higher up than the mayor that got wind of something that the mayor was trying to hide, basically.
Fine. Now you can simply roll disguise to turn up with that. Or you could go further and call on a contact, mark stress, call on a forger contact to actually have credentials that show you to be, the cultural minister for the region.
Okay, that sounds more fun. So I think I would like to do that. Also, in marking stress, correct me if I'm wrong. Now that I have marked stress, can I use my expertise again?
You can.
Yay, bonus. Okay.
It does mean your stress is what, 4, 5?
4 again.
Oh.
Familiar territory.
Yeah.
Been there.
Been there, done that. So fine. You mark stress. All you have to do is to give your forger contact down at the very bottom a name. I'll pull up a forger for you.
All right.
Yeah. And,
Story Games name book. Here we go.
Yeah. Always worth having. So that you've got those credentials, and we flash back to a scene where, knowing what you knew from Oliver, you're picking up, a lanyard with the Transylvanian regional culture minister. Yeah. Now the advantage of that is that you might be able to have an entourage, I guess.
Well, I that would be ideal. Yeah.
But let me go to Eli. Are you interested in being part of that entourage?
Sure, absolutely.
Because I think that ID will cover all of you at least for a short period of time. Hanna, with vehicles, you can define what vehicle you want to have in this operation. But what kind of preparation do you want to do?
So what I was actually thinking, to be honest, is like the A-team montage where it's like taking a vehicle and modifying it for our uses, either to get in, get out, and specifically what I was looking at was a narrative reason for everyone to have the loadout that they would want. So basically the back of the van could basically have a bunch of different vests with different loads. So it was like, oh, this is the one that has the heavy ballistic armor in it and maybe some space for a sniper rifle or whatever you guys want.
So the way I'd mechanize that would be that assuming your technical or vehicles roll goes well, let's do that first, then we'll worry about it.
Okay, so I'll roll the 3 dice. I'll include stress. I got a 4 on the stress die.
Up it goes, but that is success. So you have that vehicle, yeah? So is this the vehicle that the minister is going to travel in?
That makes sense.
So it's a large SUV. Yeah. And what we'll do is whoever can get, normally I wouldn't let you change load, right? Once the op started. But if you can get back to the car, you can change your load. Yeah. Because given the disguises of entourage, conceivably driver Hanna,
yes,
and minister, that's going to look like all of you in light. Yeah. So I'm going to assume that to start with. Are you going to turn up? I guess this comes down to Calder. Do you want to be confronting Jack in the light or in the dark?
Let's do it in the dark.
Okay. So he's going to be off duty tonight. You're going to break into his window and there's going to be some kind of issue. At dusk, the minister's car is going to turn up. I'm seeing it driven by Hanna with Eli as entourage, but Jan with his credentials being absolutely front and center. Yeah? And we'll see what happens then. Yeah? Okay. So Calder, you're outside the window and I'm seeing you just lever the window open. Yeah? And that is the point at which 2 guys with assault rifles fall into the lights of your SUV, Hanna, as you come up the mountain road from the village. And they clearly, but they're clearly ready to shoot. So do you pull up or do you drive through them?
Oh, I pull up.
I just wanted to check.
I pull up and I actually manually lower the window over on Jan's side. He's in the back so that he can talk to them.
Yeah. And one of them will come up and Jan, this is disguise with expertise and stress if you want it. What could go wrong here?
Who doesn't want stress? Okay.
Maintain your cover is the move.
What was that? Sorry.
It's maintain your cover is the move. Okay. So gotcha. Fingers crossed. And they come and say, "Who are you? What do you want?" And they are speaking bad Romanian with a British accent.
Oh, and by the way, this SUV has like little flags on the front with the Romanian flag.
Of course, yeah. Transylvanian regional government flags. Yeah.
There we go.
All part of the picture.
So I don't even say anything just yet. Actually, yes, I do. Read. And it's a little ID that says my name is Sergiu Luca, and I don't know if their Romanian is this bad. I give them a sec if they look especially confused. If it looks like they're able to read, then I assume we're fine.
I don't think they read Romanian, and so they say, okay, hang on, and you see one of them. I've in English. I've got some guy who says he's from the regional fucking government here. What do I do? Okay. Okay. He said, okay, would you just follow me? And he walks you up towards the monastery. And you can see,
like he invites me out of the SUV.
No, he has the SUV drive up through this kind of camp where there's the refrigeration van, there's the dentistry, and a couple of buses, a flatbed, bulldozer, digger, and he asks you to pull up in front of the kind of entry to this quadrangle. Where and you can clearly see that it's floodlit in there. They've been digging holes, all kinds of stuff's going on in there. It doesn't look like any archaeological site you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And out of the light comes a slight woman, and she is hurriedly kind of pulling on a jacket, clearly about to retire for the night. And in excellent Romanian, will explain, I don't quite understand, how can I help you? And what is your demand, Jan, as Sergio?
What is going on? As in an in character? Yeah. I step out, by the way. I'm not waiting for somebody to invite me. And I'm looking around pretty like conspicuously, like very obviously at all the weird stuff that shouldn't be here.
Hanna steps out with the cap, opens the door for Sergio to get.
Of course,
there we go.
Of course. Eli, do you get out or are you still in the car?
I think Eli gets out. I think Eli is similar to Jan, is looking around, but looking specifically like, like he quiet, but just like taking notes of everything and like looking disappointing for everything, being like,
okay, roll. I
Really?
think I want you to roll with insight to investigate what you see, because let's see if
Sure.
anything comes to Eli with that insight.
sure.
So with expertise, stress if you want it.
Four.
Okay, so yeah, this is not an archaeological site.
Mm.
They are digging a hole, and they appear to have installed on a low crane a kind of cage lift that looks like it could be lowered down into a hole in the center of the quadrangle, in the center of the monastery. But you can ask me a question.
Let's see. What area seems to have like the highest amount of security around it?
The perimeter. So you're
Okay.
already inside that.
Okay.
Most of it is to stop people getting this far.
Okay.
Calder. We see that conversation. We cut back to the window. Now you are, I think, probably crossing the threshold into the room.
Yes, I would imagine I'm crossing the threshold into the room, looking around, and I wanna take this moment to spend a piece of intel to find out where is it? Creatures. A compulsion of Billings.
Okay. I will tell you that in the moonlight, whether it's moonlight outside doesn't matter, but it's moonlight in here. In the moonlight, you can see a glass beside the bed, and you would swear that glass had contained blood.
Ooh, okay.
So I'm going to define a compulsion, which is addicted to master's blood.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, so I think Calder is going to take several steps towards this bed where he knows Billings is. And just in a sort of conversational tone as he's pulling out a strange enough, a wooden blade. It's like a knife, but it's forged in rosewood specifically.
Select rosewood stake from the available list of equipment. Takes up one of your spaces.
And Jan is gonna get very close to sort of close enough to be threatening, but not within Billings' reach.
Okay.
And just say, rise and shine, friend.
The eyes flick open, and in that moonlight, there is a distinct reddish tint to them. But you did roll a 6, so you have the drop. Do you want to do anything, or are you content to just give him a chance to get up?
I'd like to attempt to immobilize him.
Okay. So you will find a move called Confront the Conspiracy or its Pawns.
Yes.
If you fight or shoot at the threat, say what success would look like. You want to try and immobilize him. You will roll the middle dice, the gray dice. Your hand-to-hand expertise gives you the orange one. The fact that you are a deadly assassin gives you the dice we never use, the one at the bottom of that roll. So you're all 3 in the middle. The stress dice, if you want to add it, but Billings is a significant risk. You are going to roll the top risk dice because he might not want to be withheld. And you're going to roll 2 others because I am declaring his powers now, and his powers are great strength and great speed, both of which give him an edge in combat. Okay?
Okay.
So you're rolling 4 of your dice and 3 of his. A 5, none of his dice get close to that, so you take no harm from him at all, and you have him in a stranglehold, or however, how do you want to have immobilized him?
I think I've got a hold that's it's like a stranglehold, but it's enough to let him speak. He can
Okay.
still speak, but it's a very intimate, like close hold.
I'm seeing something exotic, like he sits up, and you swing your knee around his neck, and just so you can lean down and speak in his ear, because you're cool at that kind of stuff. And she introduces herself as Dahlia Inovia, and she's the site director. And she doesn't know what she can do to help. She pulls out the mayor's permit.
Dahlia, as I'm sure you probably know, you do not go through the mayor for this. The mayor does not approve this, which is not in fact within the town's bounds. This is a regional concern. This is of historical note, yada, yada, etc. You do not go through the mayor. You, in fact, should have gone through me, since you have failed to do so. And we are going to have you shut down this site immediately. And you are provided since we are coming to you late, you are provided until 6 a.m. local time to remove all equipment.
Okay, and I'm going to invoke my GM complication at this point, which is super bad. There's a supernatural threat on site at a level above what the briefing suggested.
Okay.
And that becomes apparent by the scream that issues from the pit in the middle of the quadrangle. Hanna, what's your reaction to the scream? Because that's not coming from where Calder is supposed to be.
Right. So I think I stayed with the car.
All of this is going on within paces of the car.
Okay. I basically walked around to the side. I lit a cigarette. I'm smoking, and watching the guards a little bit nonchalantly. And I'm headed over towards where one of the construction equipment is. I think I have a bomb on me, and I was just going to plant this surreptitiously. But then I hear the scream, and I look directly where that scream is, and I'm kind of panicked. And I'm like, what happened? What was that? I didn't read anything about that.
Trust me, everyone else is staring in that direction as well. Unless Eli isn't.
No, he definitely is. I think he was in the middle of taking notes, hears it, and like freezes and is like, "Oh God, like what did we get ourselves into?"
Calder, you have him immobilized. You can talk to him. What do you want to do?
Do I hear this scream also?
Yes.
Who do you have with you? You always hated to work alone. You were always a needy person, Spilling.
My team is outside. But if I was you, Calder, I would run for the hills, because that scream does not bode well.
That sounds really boring, Billings.
Trust me, Calder. And that's when he tries to drag you off his neck. Would you roll to confront the conspiracy in its pawns? Your 3 dice, the stress dice if you want, and 3 of his. Okay, so, oh gosh, right. Okay, so 4 is your best outcome, which is success. Do you want to try and hurt him, or do you want to reestablish the immobilizing?
Reestablish the immobilizing, but he did roll a 5.
He did. Your 4 was on the stress dice, so your stress goes up by 1.
Oh, I have a 4 on another dice, or does that not? It's meat. Oh, right, it's meat, right? Meat.
Yeah, and then his 5 is equal to or greater than yours, so you will have to roll a d6 for a consequence.
Okay.
You know, as in all things, high is good.
4.
4. Oh, where's it gone? Oh, there it is. I've moved it. That was silly of me. On a 1 to 3, consequences are serious. 4 plus, you were lucky this time. It hurts, but you'll live. So you've immobilized him again. So you can have another bit of conversation with him if you want. And he tried to drag you off, and he couldn't, despite that great strength. Jan, what about you when this scream happens?
I actually, I forget what her name was. What was the name of the woman who comes
Dahlia.
out to? Dahlia. Okay. You mentioned she speaks perfect Romanian, but I assume accent, like she's not Romanian herself.
No, she's not. No,
Okay.
You think she's Russian.
Okay. Okay. Then I don't have to fake much of this. Kind of terrified. I grab her shoulder. What the hell is that?
And I think Dahlia's reaction is to run away from that scream.
She's running. You hear over the the communication, in case you didn't know already.
Eli, do you try to stop her?
I mean, yeah, I guess if she runs by me, I definitely will. Just because,
Okay,
I mean,
so-
he's not strong, but he'll try something.
Well,
Actually,
you all have
one of-
hand-to-hand expertise, so you know.
yeah. I was gonna say one of the items I saw was a taser. Could I
It was a
use that?
taser. Declare a taser.
Yeah.
Fill in the gear slots for a taser, and fight or shoot the threat. Objective to incapacitate it with a taser, I guess.
Yeah.
So you're rolling with expertise, the stress dice if you want it. There is the outside possibility that she gets us close enough to kind of thump you in the face. So roll the very top risk dice.
Okay. So it would be 3, and then plus the very top
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, right. So you fail.
Okay.
Because I don't think there's at a cost one here. And she is running into the night. Because she didn't do any harm to you, no consequence to roll. She is running into the night, shouting in English, "It's free! It's free!"
So
Hanna.
he's like, shit, she got away from me.
Hanna, what about you?
So Hannah's plan was to hide this bomb. She's just going to set it there on the tractor trailer, flick a switch to turn it on, and make back for the vehicle to grab her load.
So just so I'm clear, the tractor trailer is outside the quadrangle. The scream is inside the quadrangle. Is that fit with what you had in your head?
Yes.
Fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And basically, it was really intended as a distraction or something like that. And, if we needed it, we could just set these things off. But since shit's already gone all to hell, she's just going to set it there, make sure it's armed, and head back to grab the rest of her gear.
Okay. So all you need to do is you've declared the C4, mark the slots it takes, and tell me when it goes off. You roll technical just in case, but does it go off now or?
I think. Oh no! I think this is on a button.
Fine.
Right. So
Fine.
narratively, we can pick a time for it.
Okay. Let's go back to Calder. He nearly got you then, but he didn't. What do you do?
And I think Calder's he's almost just like chatting, and he's like, even with bucked up super strength, you still can't get one over on me, Billings. Now, and he's gonna like sort of clinch a little tighter. What's on its way?
Do you know what this monastery is called?
Something, Lord something, I don't know.
Yeah, the Lord's heart. You don't want to see the Lord whose heart is down there. Dahlia's been feeding it blood for weeks.
That's your operation then. You've been falsely operating on people and feeding their blood to this heart?
A simple request in return for dental help, a simple blood sample, a simple donation of blood to help other people in other towns. Now, either you're going to get off my neck and we're both going to run away, or we can sit here and wait for it to kill us all.
You have no control.
You don't control a thing like that.
So then why unleash it?
Because it's woken up, hasn't it? Somebody's fucked up down there. Jesus Christ, Calder, get with the program. You think we planned to let this thing come out? What do you think the refrigeration's for? Jesus fuck. Cut back to Jan.
They're afraid of it. Oh, out of character, are there any, so the guards that walked us up here, are they still present?
They are, and they are in the archway covering that pit.
Good news, bad news. Good news, they're scared. Bad news, same. But we might be able to take advantage of the fact that they are no longer paying attention to us.
They're definitely paying no attention to you.
Yeah.
You're a bunch of civilians that are eminently sacrificial.
Okay. Hanna, do we know that you have explosives? Do we know what you're doing?
Oh, yeah.
I
Okay.
assume, yeah.
Hanna, do you have more explosives in the truck?
And this was just kind of, oh, I'm sure, yeah.
We could drive it and then make our way out before it hits the pit.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
not,
I think.
I mean, I'm not actually in
Yeah, go ahead.
charge. Just
No, but you are prepared to sacrifice anything.
that's true. If you can rig them, and then I'm running back to the truck.
To the SUV.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Eli, that's the conversation between Jan and Hanna. What's your view at this point?
Yeah, I think honestly, I think Eli is like, let me help, like set it up, because he basically says, he's like, I don't want whatever's down there getting out, so let's do this. What can I do? And like, pulls out like whatever little gadgets he's got to be like, how can I, can we wire up something with the laptop, etc. So just kind of willing to jump into the action here.
So Hanna, what's your response to this? You can have
So
as much C4 in that SUV as you want, if that's the solution you are looking at.
So I think we came with enough C4 to set off 2 or 3 little explosions, or big explosions, but not like blow up a building, like blow up, distract. And so we have 3 or 4 charges in there. And I think it's, everybody steps up to the SUV, grabs their vest. Hanna slips her vest on, slips in the driver's seat. And then as soon as everybody's grabbed their stuff, peels off, and I'm going to drive the SUV towards the hole and jump out at the last minute.
Okay. Now, as you say, you don't have enough explosives to bring that building down, because that's what you just told me. To fill that hole, you need to set the charges.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because if you set them in the right place around that hole, you might be able to collapse it.
So am I the only one who has explosives?
You're the only one with technical expertise. I'm very happy for Eli to come along, and so you can do 2 at a time. You kind of set it up. You say, put it over there. Yeah.
This doesn't require us to be
that sounds perfect.
in the pit, does it?
No, it requires Hanna to be by the pit.
I'm volunteering my services here as well. How can I help?
Fine. So that should allow you to do this relatively swiftly, Hanna, and then retreat to a safe distance and press the button. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Calder, you hear this conversation in your ear about we're gonna have to blow the fucking thing.
They're gonna blow the building I'm in.
Well, they're gonna try and collapse the pit in the center of the quadrangle. So your building ought to be safe.
Okay. So I trust in my team.
Okay. So what do you see happening?
Yeah, so Calder is going to look at him and say, "We're not going anywhere until I get what I need out of you."
Okay.
Real quick, do you trust this fuck up?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's the question. I don't know if I trust you. I do trust Hanna, though.
Oh, okay. I hope that's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to let you use your deadly skill to extract information from him. So you can use deadly to investigate if you want to.
Yeah. The same 3 dice as before, correct?
And the stress dice if you want it. And I think he's kind of relaxed a bit.
Okay, so do I need
he thinks there's a deal on the table here.
Okay. So do I roll the his dice or do I leave those
No,
alone?
he's not resisting at this point.
Okay.
If this went badly, he might.
Okay. All right. This one didn't roll. I'm just gonna re-roll it real quick.
Talk about pulling the iron out of the fire. Wow. A fail becomes a great success. So he will very quickly explain that this is a British government sponsored exercise to find and capture a vampire.
Mhm.
Okay, you get that for nothing. Now you can ask 2 questions.
Who is his master?
Well, technically, it's the guy in that hole. Because Dahlia's been feeding it blood. And then we've been taking some back.
Okay.
And it amps him up.
Okay. All right.
Because he doesn't have access to his usual source in Plymouth.
Okay. All right. So he has a usual source in Plymouth.
Yep.
All right.
Second question.
Ooh, I think it's a little more personal. I think it's why it's sort of like a why me, because he was just, granted he was an exceptional, Navy SEAL, but why was he made part of this conspiracy? Who put him in this position to be a cog to then unravel and essentially put him in this position?
I think it's it must be your unit commander, mustn't it? Because he was taking orders on what jobs you should do. And so I think it's your unit commander, whoever he might be. I'm going for Major. Oh God, if it's Navy, it's probably not majors. Commander Michelson.
All right.
Because he was running the ops that you were sent on, that you came to believe were part of the conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, now you think about it, that joint training exercise with the SAS was by Commander Michelson.
By Commander Michelson.
That was under his auspices. He had the idea. And I think that what Jack will say to you is, Knight, you could always come home, There's more where that came from, and he glances down at the empty glass on his bedside cabinet. We'll cut from there back to Hanna, Eli, and Jan. So Hanna, this comes down to your technical expertise and where you place this, yeah? So let's have you roll with expertise, stress dice if you want it. I will tell you, Hanna, that as you look into the pit, because it's not a pit in the sense they haven't dug it all the way down. They've dug through a surface seal over a almost a well-like stone-faced shaft. And the light, this is very well lit, but it's almost like the light isn't reaching the bottom. And if you didn't know better, you'd say that less and less of the shaft is being illuminated by this light. Almost like a shadow is moving up the shaft. So Hanna, do you want to set the charges with Eli and Jan's help?
Sounds like the plan. Yeah.
Go for it. With expertise.
Okay.
Stress dice if you want it.
Yeah.
Close run thing.
Yeah, seriously.
But you think the charges are in the right place. So how far do you want to retreat from there before you press the button? Do you want to get as far as the gate, or do you want to leave it until you get beyond the flatbed that you've rigged, or until you're at the perimeter?
So I think we pull back far enough that it'll ring our bell, but we will recover fairly quickly, hearing wise. So I think that's back to the gate or to the flatbed somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
And probably putting the SUV between us and the explosion.
Fine. Calder, they've made you an offer. What's your response?
Is it really a home? Is that stuff even worth it? And he's gonna, look at that glass.
And I think, you can't see, he can't look you in the eyes and say this, but he will say something like, Michelson thinks he's on the inside, but he's really on the outside. Would you rather be on the inside or outside? You could do a lot from the inside, Calder.
We're gonna talk.
Could we talk somewhere else? I really want to be around when he comes out of that hole.
And I think Calder's gonna grab a pair of specialty handcuffs and lock them together and say, let's take a walk.
Out to the window you go. And then describe the explosion for me, Hanna.
I think it goes off in pieces, like you would normally see a building collapse. There's one explosion on one side, and things start to fall, and then another explosion to accelerate that, to kind of cover up that hole.
And these enormous stones that line this shaft peel away and begin to fall into the hole. That sounds like it's going really well, Eli. What goes less well?
That's a good
Do we
question.
see any collateral for this?
Yeah, I think, I was gonna say, I think unfortunately maybe not everybody got out at the same time, so people were still unfortunately caught in rubble or debris, and
because Dahlia was calling guys in from the perimeter. And I think that they, as you back off beyond the SUV, they are arriving and just forming up around that gatehouse when it falls on them. Jan, what do you see any downside on the outside, in the within the perimeter, but outside the monastery precincts proper?
See. Can you remind me? There was some unusual stuff that they had brought in. One was
bulldozer, digger.
Okay.
Heavy equipment.
But there was also
truck.
refrigeration truck. I want to say there's something else along those lines.
There was the
super doesn't belong
there
here.
was the dentistry van. and
Yeah, okay.
and a bus that was which they used to bring the people in.
So I know that what was her name? Dahlia ran off.
You did. She did.
I think there might be somebody else running similarly, and maybe this is Dahlia, but someone else running away who is liable to give us some hassle. Maybe someone with someone liable to take a pot shot or something.
Fine. I think that some of those SAS trained security are a bit slower getting from the far distance. And so when they see something coming out of the blast, out of the light, they're going to think that it's it. So I think all three of you are subject to confront the conspiracy and its pawns, but none of you, I think, have the kind of ranged weapons that would make you a threat to them when they fire at you. So you're all going to roll the middle dice, and then you're going to roll 2 of the risk dice. So let's start with you, Jan, as you had that really cool idea.
I'm helping. So I run the middle die and then 2 risk dice, did you say?
2 risk dice, yeah.
All right.
Just to see if you get lucky or unlucky. Oh, you get unlucky.
Looks like un.
Okay, so you're going to take a consequence. Eli, same for you.
Also unlucky.
Oh,
tied,
also
actually.
unlucky. And then finally,
What is
Hanna.
sorry, just curious, what does a tie mean?
Timing. Oh, right. If they are equal to or greater than, then you'll take a consequence.
Okay.
What about you, Hanna? Oh, wow. So everyone's taking so incoming fire from these SAS jacks, these guys. So each of you needs to roll a d6. Let's do it in the same order. Let's start with Jan.
All right. 5.
Okay, 4+. You were lucky this time. It hurts, but you'll live. Eli.
Also 5.
Oh, you lot are so lucky tonight. It hurts, but you'll survive. Hanna.
3.
3. 1 to 3. The consequences are serious. Agree with the GM if it's mortal. Fill your stress track and crack as described. Blah. It's bloody and you'll die without immediate medical treatment. It's painful. You cannot use your expertise until you get medical treatment.
So what do you think? Let's see. So probably painful.
Okay.
But I don't feel my stress track in that case.
You don't. It's a choice. You don't die in this game unless you choose to, and then if essentially heroically, or to choose to come back as a pawn of the conspiracy. I think we're at epilogues, to be honest, because I think you've blown this thing up. I have an epilogue in my head, but Calder, I want to start with you because I think that's the intriguing one, really, and that may help the others decide whether they're wondering where Calder is in their epilogues. But what do we see of Calder?
I think you see a conversation, and I think Calder is pumping any and all information out of Billings, and I think Calder's a lot about where Billings' level of the conspiracy is.
And I think the fact that you are persuasive means that Billings is spilling a lot of stuff, thinking he's convincing you to come back.
Yeah.
But maybe the audience is left uncertain whether you are going to go back.
Yeah, and I think it's uncertain. And it's like, is he falling for it? Is he not? But you also see that he's swirling a glass of liquor that he has not taken a sip of. And there's like that sort of like slight flashback is like Billings is trying to also push this this glass of blood to him, where it says, "My body is a temple. I don't put anything bad for it in it."
I like that. Let's go to Jan. How do we epilogue Jan out of this?
Okay. I think Jan doesn't know at this point whether or not the people he was, responsible for getting killed this time around were necessary deaths or not, and he's not sure if he's fine with that either. And so I think we see Jan like probably in a safe house, other PCs in the background, and I think we just basically see Jan is not doing great for himself and is retreating once again into the bottom of a bottle, like cheeks flushed and things like that, other visible signs,
He
and just kind
reaches for
of
the vodka
staring at a
bottle,
wall.
reaches for the vodka bottle, and he misses it, and it topples and smashes. And we
He's
have
pretty far gone.
we have a view of him not being in a good place.
Yeah, he's
Eli, what
spiraling.
about you? You set off down the rabbit hole.
I think honestly he's just is like more and more just like getting wrapped up in his like conspiracies. He's got confirmations of things. So I'm assuming similar, like in a similar safe house, or possibly in the same as Jan, but like on his computer, 2 or 3 screens, like chain smoking cigarettes, just like digging and writing things down and like covering stuff, and like like I picture eventually you've got like the board with the string and like that level, but for now he's just going crazy, like pulling all-nighters and just like digging as much as he can, now that he's like got a next step of confirmation.
I'm seeing he's filling notebooks with scribbles,
Exactly.
another notebook and another notebook. Yeah. What about Hanna?
So I think immediately after the explosion, we saw Hanna get thrown, and like I said, her bell's rung, and she kind of gets up, and she has a scalp wound, so it's bleeding all over the side of her face. But when she looks up, she has blurry vision and then sees Dahlia running off, and she takes off after Dahlia, and Dahlia is running for the perimeter, right? And I think gets up against the fence and was going to climb it, but that's when Hanna catches up with her. And Hanna, pulls up the SMG, the little snub-nosed SMG kind of thing with a light, flashlight on it. And, we see Dahlia kind of spotlighted, and she's not, she's got fangs and red eyes and all of that. And she kind of laughs. And that's whenever Hanna reaches over and flips the flashlight to a UV flashlight. And we start to see her, smolder, and flames lick up, and then it comes back to where the SUV, the damaged SUV is, and in the distance we see that whole flame lick up, and then we see Hanna walking back with a determined look on her face.
You killed a vamp. My epilogue is a week or two later, and there is it looks like it's NATO. It looks like it's some kind of international military force that's on the ground in the monastery, and you can see that they're pouring concrete over this central area. But then, as we pull away, we just see a shadow in one of the monastery windows. Next time on Against the Dark Conspiracy. ... Thank you for that. If we got 5 minutes, I'd like to run a quick stars and wishes, if that's okay. So I'll go left or right because I on the character keeper because I lack imagination. Stars, Stephen.
The game was very evocative. I really liked that. I liked how we were able to build characters and they meant a lot, and they were very, Jan and Calder and Eli really stood out to me as things as if I'd been playing for a good deal of time and not that we built them in an hour.
Yeah, no, I'd agree.
Stars to everybody for building such good characters.
Yeah. Steve, any stars?
Yeah, I actually I really enjoy how this is part like players and part mechanics and part you being open to us doing things. But I like how I'm going to say Calder. K? I'm only seeing the character names now. Comes into chat and is like, hey, I see we're both building up some stress. You want to do some stuff, and then I like how I really enjoyed the opportunity to get berated and then retreat into alcohol, and then it all ties into the mechanics and it all ends up being a lot of fun. More than that, I had a ton of fun, and again, ditto with the characters really stood out.
Yeah, I was really pleased because the other one shots, they've tended to be run and gun, whereas you lot invested much more in character interaction, which was really nice for me to see. So thank you for that. Kay, any stars?
Yeah, I think I'll continue the trend. I think the characters were really great. I really love the fact that we were able to get that juxtaposition of Calder and Yan. In just like you have like this age divide, you have this sort of specialization divide, this whole back and forth, and how that led to some really interesting dialogue that then also in the conclusion, at least for Calder's epilogue, like both of them, where it's like it built in this, like, you know, he doesn't put this stuff in his body, and then you have this glass of blood, and then you also have, you know, Yan dipping into the vodka more, and it's, yeah, it was just a really great foil, and getting that interplay, especially when making characters so quickly, but have it play so deeply, especially with people you do not know. It was really fantastic.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely endorse that. I think that the degree to which you threw yourselves body and soul into those characters was a joy to see. Cameron, any stars?
Yeah, I mean, again, I echo everything everyone's been saying. I thought character's great. Everyone played him really well, and I think everyone jumped in. I also just have to say, like, I thought the system was really fun. I had a friend who mentioned it was really cool because I think he played with you last Gen Con, and so I was really excited to see it. And there's some things that even for my own games that I was like, oh, that would be a cool system to like take away or try out. So I had a lot of fun.
Oh, I'm glad you felt it worked. Now I just get the frigging thing laid out into backers. Let me go round for wishes. Stephen, better if?
I think this was actually more of a problem with a one shot, but I kind of wanted to push things towards seeing more supernatural. Seeing the vampires much earlier, and, you know, feeling like they were on our trail, and that we needed to be very scared about that. So that would be my takeaway. But for a one shot, I think I kind of took care of that for me in the epilogue. So
you did so well in getting Oliver out. Normally, there's been a confrontation with Jack. Then, but you were so smooth, guys. You know, there was just no way through those sixes.
Yeah, I think it was my game balancing last night. I played in a game, and I think I had one success over like 14 rolls. So I think that was just nice guys being like, we gotta balance this. Here's a bunch of sixes.
Yeah. So you were just so competent in that opener that I was a bit horrified.
And that's actually why I suggested that we knew the person, or that we saw someone in the background that, you know, could tie into that, and that we would feel that threat coming after us. Yeah.
No, I appreciated that. It was a very good call. Thank you, Stephen. Steve, better if?
I don't know if I had a lot of fun. I don't know if I have a better if. I came into this thinking that there was there was maybe too much on, you know, on the character keeper, but you went through and explained the stuff that we needed to know, and then the rest of it's kind of busy, but you're just like, hey, you go here for this thing. So I don't know. I think it worked out okay. It was great. I'm sorry.
That's fine. No, I'm very. GM's gonna walk away from that one, Steve. Thank you. Okay.
I will echo that. I will echo that and say, basically, for explaining the rules in an hour and us building characters, and then you explaining all the rest as we went along, it was fantastic. Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Kate, any better ifs?
The only thing I can think of, which honestly is not much of a better if, is I would have liked more time. I question, like, I think we had a good game. I feel like this is just one of the things that I've been back and forthing about is this game better as in all the games I played this weekend, is this game better as a one shot or as like a mini arc or a campaign? And I would have really liked to have seen more time. Maybe, like, again, usually one shots aren't that long, but I think this could have benefited from like an extra hour. And I think we could have really detailed some of the more, we got some really good interpersonal stuff, but I would have loved to, like, I had ideas and angles for some more interpersonal conversations that we just didn't have time for, trying to show everything off, which is valid. And again, it was still a very fun game. but yeah, it's more time. Which
Yeah. I think this is probably the last time I'm going to run it as a GCOG for that reason, because I think that when I first ran it at GCOG, it was pretty stripped down, or I need to strip it down. I don't know, but I like the fact that there's more scope now for those interpersonal things, and maybe a single operation. I don't know. Maybe that's the way to go.
A single operation. Instead of like a full-on operation, maybe you can just have everyone detail a quick scene you had just interacted with or something.
Yeah. But I think that's what I need to think about, because I think you're right. I think that particularly for players like you who engaged in the interpersonal, it means that plot and supernatural and vamps kind of then drift away. But no, that's good. That's a good thinking point. Thanks, Kay. And finally, Cameron, better if?
I was just say honestly the same thing. Yeah, it was like my only thing was I wish I had more time or had another session, because it was a lot of fun and would love to dig more into this, this conspiracy and the characters in the scenario, because it was like really, super interesting, and it was very, I got hooked very quickly and was wanted to see more and more of like, all right, where's this gonna go?
When looking at the systems I played this weekend, there were like 3 questions I asked myself. One was one shot versus, multi-game. One of the other things I asked is, how does this differ from other games I play, like, to make it? And I will say, this game, in my opinion, has enough different to it and enough interest in the moves, in the way it maneuvers, to make it something unique and special, which is not something I can say for several of the games I beta tested or played, like this weekend, where I had some feedback about, you need to change this because it's too close to XYZ. But yeah, it's phenomenal. Like, I could very much see myself playing a campaign of this game. I am saddened that during a break, I Googled the Kickstarter and it's already passed, so I can't throw money at it. It's a phenomenal game. The details, the whole shebang, wonderful.
Oh, well, I will take that, Kay. Thank you very much. I will be running a series of this, if not a quarterly of this on the Gauntlet at some point. I just need to get the fucking thing out the door now before I do anything else with it.
So after the Kickstarter, are you going to throw this up on like drive-through or something?
Yeah.
Good.
Because I'm not getting into printing, so people who backed it will get a voucher if they want to get a printed version. They'll have it at cost, and that's the only place I can get that done, really. So yeah, no, I will. But as I say, I stop playing the frigging thing, finish the layout, get it printed. I have to do a thing to Kickstarter now saying won't be with you by the end of the month. Anyway, thank you very much for that, folks. I had a great time with you, and I hope to play with you all again. And if you are not, Kay, I noticed you've appeared in the Slack this morning, my time. Cameron, I don't know if you're in the Slack. Steve, I don't know if you're in the Slack. If you want to be in the Slack, drop me a note in the chat or in an email to me, and I'll forward your email to Gerrit, who's our admin for this kind of stuff. Okay. And Stephen, I will see you again when we next play Star Wars together.
That's right. Yes.
Okay, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for running this.
You're ending the recording?
Oh, could I? How do you feel about me posting this?
I'm good.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks, Stephen. I get so excited by the end. I've forgotten about that. See you next time on the Gauntlet.
Awesome.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.